Welcome to Fantasy Audiobook. I create an angel civilization in Marvel. Chapter 71. The screen returns to Thor's side. After seeing this light wave, he finally knew what made the bombing sound. Destroyer. But why? Thor looked at the destroyer from a few kilometers away and shouted, "Why are you destroying the innocent people here?" Loki. Accompanied by Thor's roar, far on the throne of Asgard, Loki smiled contemptuously. Then continued to command the destroyer to destroy it. In this earth where civilization is not strong, the attention that Loki's destruction caused made him very comfortable. So this caused his madness even more. Boom, boom. The bombing continued. The day before yesterday, Harlem Avenue had just rolled like a dragon. Now the entire downtown area of New York City seems to be invaded by aliens. This is the most prosperous and densely populated place in New York. So it resulted. Now the whole city is wailing. The bombed car kept burning. The house that was hit also collapsed in an instant. At this moment, the whole city is full of smoke and gunpowder. Thor looked at this scene, stupid deeply, and at the moment's shield. After experiencing this scene, Phil Coulson, Hill, and Fury in New York hurriedly drove to find Thor, who had satellite positioning on him. "Get out of the car." Fury's windbreaker swayed towards the silly Thor and asked angrily, "What's the situation? What kind of monster is that face-spraying energy?" Just now, Thor's roar and Destroyer's attack, shield, knew that it had something to do with Thor. Adding to the fact that he is now dumbfounded, Thor must know something. Thor slowly turned his head to look at the three of Fury. "He is the Destroyer, one of the artifacts used by my father Odin. Except for the artifact to break it, there is no other way unless the energy stored in his body is exhausted." Artifact. Fury gave me Sao's expression. "Where shall we get the artifact?" "What is the artifact?" "My hammer," Thor explained silently. "Your hammer." Fury was taken aback. "The Mexican one?" Thor nodded. Fury broke out directly. "I'll get you the hammer from Mexico, and it will be gone when it gets here in New York. You can't pick it up, and it's useless to bring it." Thor said with a low expression, "Even if it is shipped here, I can't pick it up, and I can't use its power. This is Mjolnir, and I have lost the power to use it." After Thor's reminder, the three of S.H.I.E.L.D. also remembered that Thor had said this. And Mjolnir, S.H.I.E.L.D. cannot pick it up. This is built by a dead Perseverance core. So if you want to pick up this hammer, if you don't have rights or verification methods, passwords, etc., at least you need to have the power to raise the quality of a persevering core. This is impossible for most creatures in the universe. Fury couldn't find a solution after all his thoughts. He turned angrily and looked at the sea. "I just saw the Angel building." Then he turned back. "Look at Hill and Phil Coulson. Angel will make a move. I believe it will." Phil Coulson nodded. But he went on to add, "But it will take a while. He needs to wait for people in this world to have no chance at all before he will take action." Hill nodded afterwards. "If Angel appears as soon as danger appears, then Angel is not called the angel who can save the world, or the savior. Angel will only take action when the whole world is at a loss." Fury scratched his scalp in distress. He also knows this. But wait for that time. New York is gone. Then New York is gone. Is his full name Shield of the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau useful? At that time, the president shall not dismiss him from office. Then do you want to go to the Angel building door and kneel down to see if you can invite Angel out? This idea just appeared. At this time, just when the three of S.H.I.E.L.D. were sad, Thor suddenly walked onto Central Avenue in New York silently. And he walked slowly towards the Destroyer directly all the way. During that period of time just now, Thor saw what a country would encounter during war. The city was reduced to ruins. Buildings will collapse. The death of every member of the family will bring endless sadness. If every citizen has to experience these things, is this president or king still competent? Definitely doesn't count. That's what Thor thought. "I want to provoke war. I want to suppress it by force." But what he got back was not much different from what he saw now. And Asgard at that time may be worse than this. So he understands. What is a qualified king? The minimum. What I mean. Thor walked slowly towards the Destroyer. In the destruction, the Destroyer also found the figure who had the courage to come over. This inevitably made Loki a little more angry. Because Thor is always so brave. But, intrigue and conspiracy. Loki put down the bombing. He controlled the destroyer and walked slowly towards Thor. The two were walking on an avenue full of potholes and gunpowder smoke. Shield looked at Thor blindly in the distance. What is this doing? After a while, an armor and a bearded man stood together. Thor looked up at the destroyer with deep eyes. If you want me to die, just kill me, don't destroy the city here. In Angel's place behind me, you have angered them. If you become king, what do you think Angel will do to us in the future? Finished. Thor finally reminded. I know Loki, you are listening, so kill me, then go and apologize to Angel, and then go back to be your king. At the moment Asgard's throne. Loki's fist sitting there gradually clenched. He worked harder and bigger until the end. He stood up abruptly and roared, is it difficult for you to teach me to be a king? At the same time the destroyer on the earth waved his arm fiercely. Thor was swept away directly by this tremendous force. You know, Thor is just a very strong ordinary person. The destroyer was enough to throw him to death. But he saw that the destroyer had really done it on himself. Thor also figured it out. He can finally get back his own power. The hammer of Mexico is also coming quickly. After seeing Thor flying away, the angry Loki was obviously not calmed down. He controlled the destroyer to bombard even more. Boom, 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 boom. Shield in the distance saw it. Fury looked uncomfortably at the destroyed city again. What the hell did Thor do, and why is the destroyer more violent? Phil Coulson relied on his familiarity with Thor and said silently, perhaps he was stupefied and said something that made the destroyer even more angry. For example, you go home quickly, don't break it, etc. These are all adding fuel to the fire. They talked. The destroyer bombed several tall buildings again. Mom messing with Fack. Fury snorted, and suddenly he thought of something and said, where did Tony Stark go? His building is going to be bombed. Director Fury, Mr. Stark's armor is broken and it is still being repaired. Phil Coulson agent reminded, it will take a few days to fix it. What Fack? Fury was really desperate this time. It is not working every day, and the Earth should not be. This New York is about to be demolished dozens of kilometers. Who can settle the destroyer in the end? At the moment, Fury wanted to kneel on the ground and beg Angel to come out quickly. Phil Coulson looked at the city that was still being destroyed and suggested, I need an agent cell phone. We haven't talked on the phone yet. This is the first time. Hear Phil Coulson's proposal. Fury started thinking. Do you want to use it? Call it. Fury gritted his teeth and told Phil Coulson to start calling. As a result, the phone has just started to dial. At this time, a figure appeared in the sky above New York. Fury looked at the voice with wings, hurriedly turned around and shouted. It's close. It's close. Angel is out. But, sir, Phil Coulson said regretfully, although I turned off in time, the call was still made. Fury. Roar. It's over, once used for favor. Next, Alen suddenly appeared in the sky above New York. She saw the destroyer who was still bombing. And anger came from the heart immediately. This thing almost blasted Wang's mansion. Not admitting mistakes are still ruining everywhere. For a while, Alen directly took out a vibranium longsword from the dark plane and threw it forcefully. The destroyer reacted. Directly aim at that longsword and spray energy waves. But it is obvious. This vibranium longsword rushed through this energy wave easily. Because this is Antarctic vibranium, energy attacks do not have much effect in vibranium. So it resulted. Kang. After the sound, the destroyer was directly nailed to the ground by the vibranium longsword from his face. At the moment he was nailed to the hilt and he could only lean back halfway. The overall posture is like the armor on the lower waist. At the moment, Asgard's Loki grinned mockingly on his face. Want to deal with the destroyer with a weapon that can pierce the destroyer. The restoration of the destroyer, what does ability eat? But the next moment, Loki's grin changed to frowning. Because the destroyer is recovering. But that speed is very slow, only less than 70% of the original. Why is that? This is definitely because of the characteristics of Antarctic vibranium in use. As long as the excitation energy is used, the surrounding metal molecules can be decomposed. Although it is impossible to decompose this artifact-like destroyer. But at least it can reduce his recovery effect. And after the destroyer is hit, it is not only the recovery speed that is slow, and his various speed of action. Seeing the destroyer want to break free. Humph, Alen snorted softly. The next moment another vibranium longsword was thrown from the dark plane. Kang. This time the longsword was directly inserted into the abdomen of the destroyer and nailed him to the ground again. At the moment the destroyer can only look at the sky. And his recovery is even slower. Sheet. Loki, who was far away in Asgard, hammered the armrest violently and exclaimed, "What kind of weapon is this?" However, Loki's roar was definitely useless. With two swords inserted into the destroyer's body, it can be clearly seen that the destroyer's actions ability and restoration ability are directly reduced by half. Ah, Alana sighed lightly with the red lips that appeared behind the mask. She thought that the destroyer armor could warm herself up. Improve your own combat ability, master the third-generation angel's body quickly. I didn't expect. The vibranium weapon directly restrained the destroyer perfectly. Can you keep Alen from sighing? The sandbags are gone. Looking at the destroyer who is still struggling. He seemed to be struggling more and more at the moment. But, Alen waved her wings gently and fell. Then he walked towards the destroyer with his long legs wrapped in metal boots. Come next to him. Seeing at the moment face up, the destroyer whose body is in the shape of an N. At the moment it was already struggling to an R shape. Hey, Alen chuckled cruelly. When you blasted my Wong building, why don't you admit your mistakes in the first place? Finished. Alen lifted Angel's long legs and stepped on it gently. G. Then it sounded with the friction of the metal. The body of the destroyer that had just been lifted was stepped back from R to N shape. But still face up. Can't move anything. Asgard at the moment. Wow, Paula. Loki was already smashing plates and cups angrily. His destroyer was held in Alen's hand like a toy. She can treat the destroyer as she wants. All of a sudden, Loki was so angry. The last time his ice giant invaded the treasure room, it was directly wiped out by this beam. It ended up here with Angel. Need at will just like being treated as mud. This gap is too big. Loki, who was thinking about it more and more angry, sat back in his seat again to control the destroyer. The screen returns to Alen. After stepping back on the destroyer, Alen looked at him very helplessly. That's it. So she had no choice but to contact Luo Hua by secret communication. Wong, the destroyer is like this now, do you want to make a specimen and take it back? After Alen controls the destroyer. Gradually, those people who hadn't had time to run gathered on the surrounding tall buildings. They immediately took out their cameras and started recording. In the Sky City, Luo Hua propped his chin with one hand, and said helplessly with the calf swaying after the legs were overlapped. Then bring it back and make him my newest weapon. Yes, Alen received the order, waved and took out several vibranium longswords from the dark plane. Kang, kang kang, with the four voices sounded. All the limbs of the destroyer were inserted into the vibranium sword by Alen. This time, the destroyer's entire body was even more immobile. A total of 6 vibranium swords simultaneously activate the ability to decompose metal molecules. The ability of the destroyer was instantly less than the previous layer. But, at this time, the destroyer shook his head. Loki, who controls him, is already in a hurry. The destroyer's face flushed. In an instant, a beam of the largest high-energy beam he could use shot up into the sky. And it won't stop as soon as you shoot. If so, the destroyer can't break free by using high-energy recoil. It is difficult that he can expand the range of his head shaking until he can shoot to the surrounding buildings. Boom 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 boom. Seeing the destroyer's high-energy beam grows louder and louder, the time is getting longer and longer. Alen just started to figure out whether or not to chop off his head. Sudden, a gleam of silver light flashed from the sky above the angel building to her. Everyone present seemed to have seen this silver light. But, it's like a dream again. So where did the silver light that suddenly flashed across the sky come from? At this time, the destroyer, who was still spraying high-energy rays, suddenly stopped. Immediately afterwards, he fell directly into 2 halves from the top of his head to the crotch on Alen's sword. Looking at the destroyer who was already in half, Alen knew that Luo Hua from the Sky City made the shot. The king used Vibranium's wing blade to directly remotely control and cut the destroyer in half. Suddenly, there was a roar of joy around him. They thought all this was done by Alen. This time, Alen was a little embarrassed. Obviously it was Wang's hand, but Roar had to take it on his own. But if Luo Hua knew it, he doesn't rare these joyous roars. Because it's useless. Huan roar has no value. Then, just when Alen was about to put away the destroyer and go back, a man in a red cloak holding a hammer appeared. This is Thor. He just waited for his hammer and then recovered. Alen thought he had come to take the destroyer. So she lifted the metal boots and stepped directly on the destroyer. Then the vibranium sword pointed directly at Thor. Now Alen doesn't even want to say anything. If Thor's next move is meant to rob the destroyer, then Alen will kill him without hesitation. But Thor here, seeing Alen's long sword pointed directly at him, Thor suddenly shuddered in shock. The body of the destroyer was still lying underground. He didn't think he was more resistant to hacking than the destroyer. No, no, Thor hurriedly waved his hand. I mean, I'm here to apologize. Apologize. Alen heard Thor came to apologize. Reluctantly, he didn't point the sword at him. But it still won't be put away. Real. Thor quickly explained when Alen looked suspicious. On behalf of Asgard, I apologize for the wrong attack that hit Angel just now. That was not intentional. The attack was originally blasted at me, but after I avoided it, I blasted Angel by mistake. So here I, as Odin's son, Thor Odinson, apologize to Angel on behalf of Asgard. Finished. Thor also gave a salute. Loki asked him to wipe his butt, and he was connected. Otherwise, the previous Thor would never do this. Hear Thor's words. Alen also reported to Luo Hua for instructions. Let him go back. Shunbian told him that the country is easy to change and its nature is hard to change. Some people will not correct it. Finished. Alen also looked at Thor and said, Wong has already said and agrees with your apology. The king of Shunbian also reminds you compassionately, Zhongshan is easy to change, and its nature is hard to change. Some people will not correct it. After speaking, Alen put away the destroyer's armor that was turned into two halves. Then the wings disappeared in an instant. Looking at Angel who has flown away, Thor's heart was grateful and uncomfortable. It is grateful that the King of Angel forgave the accidental injury. What was uncomfortable was that he himself had guessed who the King of Angel was talking about. That's not who else Loki could be. But just think deep down. That also shows that the current Angel civilization doesn't like Loki at all. And Loki's cunning and conspiracy are not suitable for being a king. So, Thor decided, Loki, you are not fit to be a king at all. Asgard is bound to be destroyed in your hands. I don't allow you to do this. You won't be a king either. Finished. Thor stretched his hammer into the sky and shouted, Heimdall, send me back. Suddenly, Heimdall, frozen by Loki with the casket of ancient winters, finally broke free. He ran to Bifrost's terminal and plugged his sword to lead Thor back. For an instant, a beam of light shot directly from Asgard towards New York. Then only one mark was left on the ground. And Thor has disappeared. For a time, the New York City Center, which was about to be destroyed just now, was silent for an instant. At the moment the whole city was silent. If there is a City Noise Award, New York at the moment is definitely the champion. From gunpowder smoke to silence. From bombing everywhere to empty. Wait until the agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. arrives on site. Is this still New York? There are potholes everywhere. There are burning vehicles and destroyed buildings everywhere. Now it seems that this is much more powerful than the one on Harlem Avenue. Hill looked around and guessed. Director Fury, this time the loss may exceed 100 billion to hundreds of billions of meters of gold. Fury almost died of hearing this. It's a crisis that bursts into it again. Another unknown threat. It became like this again without knowing anything. The president just talked to himself a few days ago. What should I do? I don't know if I ask 3 questions at that time. What does China's National Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau do? And this sentence Fury still feels familiar. It seems that he scolded the information center in the same way. As a result, it was now his turn. Mom messing with FAC. At the moment the city of the sky. It was a pity that Hexi looked at the destroyer's armor lying in the hall of the king's hall. If you have more materials, you can make a throne. Luo Hua, what are you doing? Hexi turned around and explained, it's a throne-like flight machine. Speaking of Hexi, he brought out an energy model for everyone to see. The throne as a whole is the same as Luo Hua is sitting on now, except for the two huge amounts of Shuangyi on both sides. There is also a throne in the middle, which looks majestic. Then there is a sword-like authority below the throne, but only part of it. So the overall look, as long as Luo Hua sits on it, it is like an angel sitting at the top of the angel group. This is the symbol of power and position. Then, Hexi continued, but the material is really too small, and it can only be made into a second wing blade. Destroyer metal is also Ulu metal. This metal can contain magical energy, and can transmit the characteristics of the user to the weapon. Therefore, this kind of metal is only the most suitable for making weapons. That can only be so. As Hexi puts it away, she will automatically build it with the production module of Sky City. Then, Luo Hua should praise Alen for this performance. Alen, this time your action really surprised me. Unexpectedly, the destroyer looks like a muddy in front of you. After hearing this, Alen was delighted and explained, Wong, it's actually all due to the vibranium weapon. If you don't have such a weapon, you have to fight for a while. Faced with Alen's rhetoric, Luo Hua smiled and joked, fighting is not counted, but it should be missing a sandbag for practice. All of a sudden, Luo Hua's compliment directly told Alen that he was stubborn and didn't know how to reply. Who would have thought that Angel, the heroine god of war, is like a little girl here? No one can think of it. But only Luo Hua can own it. But then again, now the creation of the remaining two kings can really proceed. Thinking of it, I'm looking forward to it. After disbanding Angel, Luo Hua came to his own courtyard, sitting on the chair of the pavilion. He leaned back and closed his eyes. This is not tired, nor sleepy, but a kind of thinking. After waking up from Hexi's arms that day, the fragrance of her body naturally filled her nose. It feels like I want to lie down for a while. But because I was already awake. So he sat up. But that feeling is really good. At this time, patter, patter, Hexi's footsteps slowly came from outside the courtyard. After a while, Hexi arrived at the door. I have been here many times, and Luo Hua doesn't want to say, come in, every time. So he moved his fingers at Hexi more than this eye. Hexi knew that this was an agreement. Come and sit down next to Luo Hua. Hexi seemed to sit back deliberately. This will allow your legs to sit more on the seat. Last time Luo Hua lay down like this. After all, a normal sitting posture should not be fully seated, and only half of the entire thigh is sitting. But this time Hexi came. Sit up with the entire thigh. After she came in, she saw Luo Hua closing his eyes while resting. I thought he was tired. Hexi softly suggested next to him, would you like to lie down for a while? The voice is very soft and gentle. Like the big sister next door, like a spring breeze. Open your eyes. Facing Hexi's blue eyes, Luo Hua thought for a while. When he fell, he slept directly on Hexi's lap. Why don't you lie down with a knee pillow? My angel, I can't lie down yet. Don't tell me anything about style or indulgence. My day is only good for me. Pretending to be reserved and neurotic. Pillow on Hexi's legs, Luo Hua at the moment closed her eyes face up. At this time, a gentle hand gently straightened his hair on his forehead. Hexi took care of Luo Hua's long hair. On one side, he gently pinched Luo Hua's earlobe with the other hand and scratched. This scraping will not only relax the brain, it is also very comfortable mentally. Have to say, Hexi has definitely learned about it before. Otherwise it won't come so smooth and natural. Luo Hua at the moment closed his eyes. It is full of enjoyment physically and mentally. Angel is good. After a while, Hexi's hands changed to press his temples again. But, an inaudible word followed softly. Wong, when did Kesha and Revamping were born? Luo Hua's handsome eyebrows trembled when he heard this sentence. Then opened his eyes and looked at Hexi. Well, I was almost blocked by some existence and couldn't see it. What's the matter? I can't tell you how good or bad your tone is, if you say something unsatisfactory. What if Mr. Hexi doesn't give me a lap pillow? As Luo Hua said this sentence in a mocking tone, Hexi couldn't help it anymore. Wong, what I mean is to determine when they will arrive, and then as soon as possible to determine the distribution of research. This way, you can easily connect with each other. That man. Then Kesha's scientific research level is also very good. Kesha's research level is not below Hexi's. If you insist, Hexi and Kesha are at the same level of research. But Kesha's battle ability is obviously stronger. For Liang Bing, she has a unique ability in one aspect. But overall ability is still slightly inferior to Kesha and Hexi. But, what he said just now. Hexi. Luo Hua opened his eyes and looked at Hexi. Hexi was puzzled. I think you are suitable for being a boss, because you are particularly good at exploiting employees. Luo Hua said this very seriously. Wow, she is so cruel. There is no one who connects with the research process when it is born. People don't even have time to rest. Directly on duty. People who don't know think Angel's daily life. There is no rest for a day. But in fact, Angel's daily content is a completely flexible life. Luo Hua never stipulated when Angel should study, how much he must study, and when should he rest. Luo Hua just assigns jobs to them. Then just submit it after studying it. Luo Hua didn't even stipulate the time. Maybe there will be a complete system to correspond to the new Angel in the future, but it must be easy. Moreover, Luo Hua's Angel is not for Luo Hua. If Luo Hua assigned them to work, many of them are researched day and night. For example, Hexi started to study until he was too sleepy before going to bed. Then I woke up and wanted to invest in research immediately. But then Luo Hua was taught a lesson. He pointed his finger on Hexi's long silver hair. Should I be the boss? Hexi raised his head slightly and thought for a while. I guess it won't work. Angel won't follow me. They all follow you, including me. I am a boss and nobody cares about me. Listening to Hexi's affirmative tone, Luo Hua suddenly had the thought of teasing her. Unexpectedly, you are really quite the boss, you can, Hexi. Ah, Hexi immediately panicked. I believe there is no need to explain what the boss means. The boss the two of them just mentioned was the meaning of King of Angel. Hexi said that even if he became the King of Angel, no one would follow her. But Luo Hua directly teased Hexi and really wanted to be the King of Angel. This directly frightened Hexi. She opened her red lips in surprise. The pretty face looked shocked and at a loss. Luo Hua raised his hand and squeezed Hexi's cheek and smiled. Looking at your dumbfounded eyes, I can't tell you any jokes. After Hexi heard it, suddenly he hammered Luo Hua's chest aggrieved. Even if it's a joke, but I'm still thinking about how to explain it. At the moment, although they are all joking, but from a far angle, it's like a silver-haired royal sister angel with a leisurely and handsome angel lying in her arms. And it looks so good. They flirted and joked with each other. Unknowingly, the relationship between the two has become so close. Now the rest. There is really only the last layer of paper left among the folks. But no one knows when it will be pierced. New York at the moment. The restoration project has just begun. Only Harlem Avenue over there began to prepare for reconstruction. Here, New York's most important economic zone has been destroyed in a disastrous manner. And it seems that it can't be used anymore. Must wait until it is completely rebuilt. But the whole area of several kilometers of Harlem Avenue and the area of more than 10 kilometers of New York Avenue add up. This is what he brewed, but I don't know when it will be rebuilt. Although the central area of New York will soon be restored and put into use. But the outer area, 2 years, 4 years. Who knows when it can be fixed? But no matter what the citizens think now. Anyway, Fury is very uncomfortable now. At the moment of him standing in the office of the presidential building. And in front of him, it is the president. In the past, when the marinated egg came, there was still something to do, but now the marinated egg can only stand. Nothing else. Just these two incidents. Every time, S.H.I.E.L.D. takes the biggest responsibility and carries the biggest pot. S.H.I.E.L.D. is originally responsible for preventing events that threaten the country. As a result, not only were they powerless these 2 times. And it was all solved by Angel. Prevention cannot be prevented. Targeting cannot be targeted. Resolve cannot be resolved. What is the use of this S.H.I.E.L.D. when I invest such a large amount of money every year? This is what the current president thinks. What do you think of these 2 sudden incidents, Chief Nick Fury? Face the president's question. Fury stood there straddling, and replied solemnly. Sir, this is indeed the negligence of our shield. We have found the problem. Oh, the president suddenly became interested. What's the problem? The problem is, Fury hesitation. We don't have supernatural creatures, or we don't have the means to target the supernatural. The president was taken aback by this. Then faintly asked, do you have supernatural creatures under your control? Not really, Fury replied honestly. If Captain Marvel counts, she is not Fury's. And now Fury has not discovered Captain America, but even Captain America has been discovered. Captain America is at most half a supernatural creature. He must be hung up and beaten when he encounters a supernatural creature. And he and Natasha Romanoff are at most half of the halves. So count it like this. There are no supernatural creatures under his. Then do you have a means to target supernatural creatures? The president asked. Yes, Fury admitted. I have the Avengers plan you approved, and Tony Stark has already joined. Tony Stark, the president repeated, and then smiled a little. Are you sure his armor can play a role in these two incidents? And he is a businessman, he will not be used by us, he has his own mind, and you can't control him. Can he be like Angel who hasn't needed anything until now? Angel has been doing selfless dedication until now. He has helped us solve many problems. Otherwise, do you think that there is an upsurge to believe in Angel in the world now? I will ignore it. Not only does he ignore it, he can't control it if he wants to. What reason do you use to make the people of this free country distrust Angel? What reason do you have against Angel? Have it? No, the word Angel brings only positive meaning. No one can use any reason to target Angel. No one can do it. Fury couldn't answer a word that the president slammed. And what they said is correct. Mr. I know. Fury explained as much as possible. If Angel can join the Avengers project, then I can do whatever it takes. But I know it's impossible, so I've been looking for a plan to target these alien creatures. The Avengers project is one of them. Correct it. The president suddenly interrupted. You brought Angel in. You should say that it is an alien creature that has no good intentions towards the Earth. Yes, Fury nodded. Then, the president's office seemed to sink. After a long time, Mr. President thought for a while, and finally reminded Fury. I announce that you have launched an emergency plan for the blue Rubik's Cube. We need to make weapons that can target supernatural creatures. If we can't build the elite, then we will pile up weapons. This time, Fury really opened his eyes and confirmed, Sir, really start. You can go now. Leave Mr. President's building. Marinated Eggs returned to the Senqui building. In his own private office, Fury called both Hill and Phil Coulson. Sit in your own chair in the office. Fury folded his arms in his arms and turned to look at another building outside the French windows. Director Fury, did Mr. President tell you something important? Hill saw Fury like this. You know what important things were said. Maybe it's not generally important. Fury turned his head and looked at his two most trusted agents. He asked me to start the blue Rubik's Cube project. Phil Coulson frowned when he heard it. He had heard of this plan, but it was not a start. This plan had already been established. It's just that I haven't had any results for a long time. Seeing that they are silent, Fury added in a low voice, but this plan started a long time ago. And Mr. President asked me to officially launch the blue Rubik's Cube project. That means the previous plans are just foreshadowing, and the real plan. At the beginning, accompanied by a period of silence, Phil Coulson finally asked, what plan? Fury. Energy weapon project. ... The next day, the weather is fine, and wavy white clouds are floating in the sky. Although the city in the sky can simulate the air environment by itself in bad weather. But in this kind of good weather, it must be naturally better. But as long as it is not a harsh environment, windy, rainy, and sunny days do not necessarily simulate the environment. Nowadays, both Hexi and Alen came to their yard. For nothing else, just because today is the day to create Angel. At the moment, Hexi thought about Kesha and Revamping coming out and he was a little bit expectant. I've been secretly running for so long. What will they look like when they come out? Will the two sisters join forces outside? After watching the time is almost the same. Luo Hua looked back at the two women. Okay, I went into the house to create them. You guys wait outside for a while. As Hexi and Alen nodded, Luo Hua stepped into his house. After creating Angel, the clothes on their bodies are covered with only a thin layer of veil. So it's better not to create it in front of others. Even if everyone is Angel. Go inside the house and come to the hall. It's not so much a lobby. Not to mention that this is a super large bedroom. Because he planned the study, rest area, drinks and so on in his entire bedroom. So it is equivalent to an oversized bedroom. Okay, formal. Standing on the carpet in the bedroom, Luo Hua was immersed in the system. Angel Civilization Creation System. Angel. Luo Hua, King of Angel, Hexi, Alen. Technology. Create Angel. The same as the previous process. When making this decision, Luo Hua's mind instantly shifted to another space. There are white clouds rolling under her feet, and a starry river above her head. Looking ahead, it was an endless space. Then create Angel. It officially started. Luo Hua closed his eyes. My heart began to imitate the angel in memory. Long golden hair, solemn face, confidence-like gestures, and powerful eyes. It seems that the solemnity were produced for her. Where Kesha is there is a rule. Next, Luo Hua's heart began to imagine another figure again. With long black hair, a seductive face, sometimes a goddess, sometimes nerves, and those fascinating eyes, they will be naughty with you from time to time. Sometimes she is like a queen, and she does have those three solemnities. But sometimes she seems to have a pit in her brain, and she will tease you from time to time. You can also say that she is a dice. Because it is engraved with goddess, queen, female nerve, female fox, girl, and female idiot. Cold ice shakes from time to time. Whichever you shake will change. But when it comes to serious things, she is still very serious. Roar. Create two angels at once. Luo Hua opened his eyes. Began to appreciate his masterpiece. At the moment he only created the soul. The rest is about to inject the energy of faith into reality. But then Luo Hua found out. There is a lot of faith energy left. Make another one. Angel is not too much. Since they are all being created, it is better to add one more. Who should be added? The remaining one can't pick the one with particularly high potential. So I can only find someone who can accompany Alen. Luo Hua thought for a while. Who has Angel who has served the three kings for a long time like Alen? After thinking for a long time, Luo Hua suddenly thought of it. Kayla. Kayla would follow Kesha's batch even if it was rare. She is also blonde. Kayla has the same long blonde hair as Kesha. But the difference is, Kesha's long hair never gets tied up. But Kayla will simply pierce it later. Then Lu Hai on his forehead was lowered from the sideburns. Her character is very similar to Kesha. Serious and serious. She will carry out the assigned tasks very seriously. Like a little Kesha. That's a pretty good description. During this time of imagination, Kayla's soul is also created. Then, after enjoying it for a while, Luo Hua just injected them with faith energy. Start to create. At the moment when the order was given, the energy accumulated in Luo Hua's body is directly divided into 3 strands and flows towards the souls of the 3 angels. But it is obvious, Kesha and Liangbing had obviously absorbed more faith energy than Kayla. Those two are like black holes. And Kayla simply absorbed it, exactly the same as Alen. Is this the difference between angels' ability? It seems so. After a while, look at the 3 angels that have gradually been filled with energy and are about to be created. Luo Hua left this space and waited for reality. After a while, a bright light of unknown color appeared in Luo Hua's house. Then, 3 figures gradually formed in front of Luo Hua. It's like light condensed. After a while, they knelt on one leg in front of Luo Hua. Open your eyes at the same time. It is not waiting for Luo Hua to say the first sentence. They seem to have a sharp heart. Just like last time, Hexi and Alen lifted red lips at the same time. Begin with the same voice in the most serious tone. My faith comes from Luo Hua, and my wisdom turns into strength. Even if I die, my soul will always guard the King of Angel. For the sake of civilization, I will never back down. Linguistically, they raised their heads at the same time, looking up Luo Hua waiting for instructions. Okay, get up. Luo Hua took out 3 sets of costumes from the dark plane and handed them to the 3 women. From now on, you are welcome to join the angel family. Although I am your creator, I am also the person closest to you. Luo Hua just finished speaking. The three women who stood up nodded together. Then they seemed to have negotiated. After taking Luo Hua's clothes, she simply put it on her body. Then 2 steps forward, take the initiative to embrace Luo Hua. Feel the 3 warm bodies on his body. Luo Hua can clearly feel the curves of each exquisite body. Angel in angel civilization. Which one is not in good shape? Which one is not beautiful? No matter which angel it is, the face and figure are all goddess level outside. The goddess mentioned here is a true goddess. It's not the kind of mortal who has been rectified, it looks like a diaresis goddess. Angel's goddess is truly from the inside out. Whether it is face, body, character, soul, etc. After hugging for a while, Luo Hua took the initiative to gently push them away. If he doesn't take the initiative to push it away, who knows how long they will hold. May not let go. And because of this, Luo Hua seems to have discovered one more thing. That is when Angel was very sticky when she was born. For example, during the period of Hexi. It won't work if you don't see each other for a day. Although it's still sticky now, it's still good compared to before. I lost it. Well, it should be a little better. After pushing them away gently. Hurry up and put on your clothes, don't wear them, Hexi and Alen are still waiting for you outside. Luo Hua finished speaking. After the 3 women got dressed, they looked up at Luo Hua at the same time. Kesha and Revamping mean Hexi, they have the closest relationship, but they are also the most difficult to deal with. Kayla means Alen, they both know each other and have served the 3 kings at the same time. Then, Luo Hua took them out. However, before going out, Liangbing glanced at Luo Hua's room with 2 eyes. It seems that if I don't finish it this time, I won't be able to come next time. Then follow Luo Hua out. At the moment Hexi was sitting outside. When she saw the 4 people coming out, she stood up. Liangbing and Kesha stood behind Luo Hua and followed them, and Kyla followed Kesha. At the moment, Liangbing stood on tiptoe and looked at Hexi with interest. There seems to be a lot to say to her. And Kesha looked at Hexi with a smile, like an old friend who hadn't seen her for many years. In addition, Kayla and Alen are also looking at each other. They also have a lot to say. For a time, there are already 6 angels. Angel civilization seems to be alive in an instant. Waiting for everyone to come together. Luo Hua took them all to sit in the pavilion. By the way, I forgot to introduce the pavilion. This is a round rest building with a spire. Except that the only gap is in and out. One circle made has been transformed into a sofa that can lie down and sleep reliably. In other words, this circular pavilion with a diameter of 3 to 5 meters can sit in a circle except for the gap. So Luo Hua sits on the main seat facing the gap in the pavilion. Hexi sat on his right hand. Kesha sat on his left hand. Liangbing sat next to Kesha. Kayla and Alen sat beside Hexi temporarily. After everyone is seated, well, I will first load all the technologies that can be loaded in the current technology for you. Finished. Luo Hua started to control the system. Loading technology for Angel Kesha. Loading technology for Angel Liangbing. Loading technology for Angel Kayla. Angel Civilization Creation System. Angel. Luo Hua, King of Angel, Hexi, Kesha, Liangbing, Alen, Kyla. Technology. First generation Angel's body, second generation Angel's body, third generation Angel's body, Angel's wings, Sky City, dark computer, vibranium armor. After loading Kesha, Liangbing, and Kyla with technology. Almost all angels now use this template. Angel. Third generation Angel's body, Angel's wings, eyes of insight, wormhole transport technology, dark energy communication technology, full energy projection technology, dark computer, vibranium armor. But there are still differences, such as Kayla and Alen. They all only have the second generation Angel's body. There is no third generation Angel's body. So Kayla, you have to keep working hard like Alen, otherwise there will be no limit to this third generation. Yes, yes, Kayla and Alen looked at each other and nodded solemnly. Next, not waiting for Luo Hua to continue talking. But Wong, how long has it been since the third generation of Angel's body was researched so quickly? Liang Bing leaned forward and looked at Luo Hua curiously. Those eyes blinked when Luo Hua looked at her. Seeing Liang Bing so rude, Kesha suddenly turned to look at Liang Bing, her eyes full of seriousness. Obviously looking at you normally. But it feels majestic and glaring. Liang Bing was stunned by Kesha's stare. Luo Hua smiled indifferently. But this time I don't need Luo Hua to explain. When Alen stood up and poured tea for the six, Hexi sat on Luo Hua's right to help explain. Cool eyes, didn't you find a technology far surpassing the current technology? He said so. Liang Bing immediately closed his eyes and looked at it. Then he suddenly opened and said in surprise, "Dark matter computer." Hear what Liang Bing said. Kesha couldn't even bother to stare at her now. She also closed her eyes and looked at it immediately, as did Kayla after hearing it. After a while, they opened their eyes together, and then looked at Luo Hua with incredulous eyes. And Luo Hua, he calmly drank the tea that Alen had just made. After taking a sip, "It depends on what I do, am I charming? Definitely, Wong is the most handsome." As soon as Luo Hua finished speaking, Liangbing immediately took it. At the moment, Hexi glanced at Liangbing without leaving a trace next to Luo Hua. And Liangbing also glanced at Hexi at the same time. Hexi knew a lot when he saw this. Compared to Kesha or herself, Liangbing has to be more proactive. The key is that Liangbing's personality and conditions are very suitable for taking the initiative and won't make Wong feel offended. Strictly speaking, the chance of cold ice is even greater. If one day does not pay attention, Hexi thinks that Liangbing is likely to overtake him directly. After all, how do you predict what Liangbing will do in one day? For example, sneak into the king's yard in the middle of the night to chat. Although Hexi and Kesha certainly didn't dare to think about it. But in case of cold ice, this is a headache. And the look in Liangbing's eyes just now, it seems to be inside with a challenge and provocation. It's like saying, "What about you sneaking away? Watch me take a shortcut to overtake you." Liangbing is the kind of direct daring to express, "I adore the king, that is, I want the king." I just showed it and played the famous brand. Because of the relationship between Wong and Angel, she is not afraid at all. So the scene of at the moment. Luo Hua is drinking tea. Kayla and Alen talked happily. Liangbing and Hexi attacked each other psychologically and in their eyes. So after taking a sip of tea, Luo Hua looked at Kesha. "You are the same as Hexi and Liangbing. You don't need to bear the burden so heavy. As the king of Angel, I can bear the pressure, although there is no pressure." Luo Hua's words directly brought Kesha, who was looking at each other, into his heart. She didn't know how to answer for a while. Kesha was thinking just now. With the dark matter computer. So which advanced technology can be researched immediately now? What can we do after researching it out? What can make Angel civilization stronger now? Yes, the newly born Kesha immediately thought about these questions. So Luo Hua just took a look in her eyes. I knew what she was thinking right away. At that time, Hexi was similar to what she thought, but how well she thought to help Luo Hua. Far from being as long and ahead as Kesha thought. Luo Hua hit the center. Kesha broke the defense again and smiled again. Then she smoothed her hair gently with her hands. It seems that some behaved softly, let out a nasal sound. Next. Because Hexi secretly struggled with Liangbing's heart to end. At the moment Hexi clenched a fist with one hand and put it in front of his lips, coughing gently. Ahem, should we assign our respective jobs first? Because before that, only Wong and I were working on the main project in Sky City, and Alen was in charge of supporting it. So now there are more angels, we can reasonably allocate projects other than Sky City. Hexi finished. Kesha, Liangbing and Kayla have obvious interest and want to get into the process right away. But Luo Hua reluctantly changed the teacup he held in his right hand to his left. Then he raised his right hand and stretched it toward Hexi's cheek. Finally pinched her ears. Epsilon equals Omicron ***. Hey. He raised the back of Hexi's ear. Luo Hua retracted his hand and held the tea set again. I've said it all, take a break after Kesha and others come, don't be so eager to get into the process. Take a rest. Hexi looked at Luo Hua with a cute face. Luo Hua was taken aback for a moment, and then reacted. The rest that Hexi said was to sit and rest for a while. But Luo Hua's rest is at least 1 to 2 days or a few days. Oh, Luo Hua sighed. Then decide on the classification today, and then you take a rest for the night, and then start your research every day. After deciding, Luo Hua looked at Angel who was present. First of all, Kayla, you are the same as Alen, research is not your main purpose, but to prevent boredom. So you, like Alen, can get on and off some small things in the Sky City, and these Alen will tell you. Yes, Kayla stood up and nodded to Luo Hua. Luo Hua waved her hand and motioned to Kayla to sit down. Then Liangbing, I know you have no ability in space-time and wormholes. So you have only one mission, that is, in this regard, you can find breakthroughs at will. I will not impose restrictions on you. You can play freely, such as wormholes, heavenly gates, space-time jumps, and even future space-time genes. Real. Liangbing immediately stood up happily after hearing this. Wong, I really love you too much. Cool ice. Suddenly, Hexi and Kesha stopped Liangbing, who had said the last words at the same time. Liangbing saw that he provoked two people. She hurriedly sat down to be honest but still stiffened. That's what it means anyway. Next, Luo Hua looked at Kesha again. Finally, Kesha, you are comparable to Hexi in research ability, but you are fighting technology. You also have unique abilities, such as algorithms, tactics, attack abilities, etc. So you can study the Sky City with Hexi in your spare time. The rest of the time you can study the direction you are interested in. Luo Hua finished speaking. Kesha also stood up. Then put your right hand on your heart and salute Luo Hua to Fangfang. Yes, here can explain the popularization. Algorithm is a calculation method of the dark matter computer in Angel's body. This different calculation method will be very different in different aspects. It does not mean Java or C++ in modern times. The meaning of algorithm is more like a way of processing. In the scanning, analysis, and cracking, it is specially targeted according to its own algorithm or experience. So if an angel's algorithm is stronger, then she must be very strong in the field her algorithm targets. There are algorithms for space, algorithms for predicting in advance, algorithms for analyzing battles, and algorithms for how to efficiently learn and make good dishes. In short, the algorithm is blooming, and everyone has compiled it based on their own experience. If there is an algorithm that can be popularized, everyone's algorithm can be the same, but it is not necessarily suitable. It should be understood in this way. And the tactics. This is easier to understand. The method of tactics is an attacking technique. You can also understand why there is a flat A in the game. Or you can think of it as broadcast gymnastics dancing youth or something. Although this kind of tactics must be used to kill him. In short, if an angel has a good tactics, then she must be particularly good in fighting. What PK, solo is absolutely very powerful. This is the function of tactics. Needless to say the final skills. What kind of big trial or flame bombing is this thing? Literally, a released skill. So in the end, I can summarize. Why is it in the angel civilization in Luo Hua's mind? Obviously some older generations of angel are not as strong as the opponent, the technology is not as strong as the opponent, the engine is not as strong as the opponent, even if there is no external computer, they can still be half-opened or even beaten. This is the practical gap in algorithms, tactics, and energy. This can bridge the technological gap. It is the same divine body, and it is also the fourth generation, and the algorithm and the tactics are sure to crush the opponent. That's it. So since Kesha has a strong ability in combat, then these techniques can definitely be left to her. Like Liangbing, they are very suitable for their direction. Next, after arranging work, Luo Hua personally took them to pick the house. After all, there are many two-story lofts with courtyards surrounding the palace of the king, and these exquisite buildings are for Angel to live in. Pick whatever, but wait until Kesha and Kayla are both selected. Liangbing hasn't chosen it yet, because Luo Hua's nearest loft was chosen by Hexi long ago. Liangbing watched for a long time and the others were similar. So in the end, after Kesha's urging, Liangbing pointed to the attic closest to Hexi and said, "Then I will choose this one, Wong." Finished. She also blinked at Hexi and Luo Hua. I really don't know what medicine she sells in the gourd. Today, it has been many days since the Harlem Avenue and New York Center Avenue incidents. New York's Central Avenue can now pass, except for a small number of successful restorations. Most of them are still under emergency repair. And Harlem Avenue. New York's Central Avenue will not be repaired before the restoration is complete. At the moment, the Mexican ghetto. Banner has chosen to live here for a while. He used some knowledge he knew to choose to do this, a little doctor. Although there will not be much. But there is no doctor here. So Banner is here, it's fine. Nowadays, he was in a good mood when he looked at the children playing outside. After he swam from the sea beside Harlem Avenue that day, he tossed and turned and came back here. But not where it used to be. It is a relatively poor area. Since that incident, Banner looked at those angels who selflessly helped humans and seemed to understand something. He no longer wants to rush back to find Angel. Instead, he chose this kind of slum to help others. This is how Angel inspired him. And it's obvious during this time. His ability to control Hulk has indeed improved. At least before encountering danger, Banner can guarantee that Hulk will not come out anyway. At this time, Dr. Banner, a black little girl ran over anxiously. What's the matter? Banner asked as he packed his things. Although he came to help. But before, there were people who came here to look for trouble. And some people are not worthy of him to see a doctor. My mother is sick. She is sweating and can't breathe. After the little girl's explanation, her mother should indeed be sick. Banner bent down and took out the diagnosis box. Then you take me to your mother's. Things like this. Banner will meet once every 3 days. But Banner is happy to do these things. And he only charged a little money. Just enough to live by yourself. If there is really no money, he can also charge a little food or other alternatives. But it must be accepted. Banner knew that if he was merciful and pitiful, he wouldn't charge money. Then there will be a bunch of people pitifully coming to the door for treatment the next day. This mercy can't be sent arbitrarily. But no matter what, the Hulk in his body really settled down. But the main reason why Hulk can be stable, Banner thinks it's because of Angel. Because recall from fragmentary memory fragments. When Hulk met Angel, he was a big boy. That's too good. Banner had never seen such a good Hulk. That's why he thought. Is the main reason Hulk honest is because of Angel. Although this problem still needs to be confirmed. But Banner almost had the answer in his mind. Then, in an area on the border of New York, there is a secret research site distributed by S.H.I.E.L.D. Although it is close to the city, it is also built in the mountains. Within dozens of floors underground. Fury looked at the research room that was working on the component. So how long will it take for us to make a little achievement after we take over this mess? Hill looked at it with a document next to him. One page after another. She sighed. Maybe on the first day of research, maybe there will be no results forever. Explain more clearly. There is no hope. It all depends on face and luck. Fury stuck his waist uncomfortably. Although this blue square, Howard Stark, has confirmed that it contains endless energy for humans. But the problem now is that they have no way to take out the energy. Even if it is taken out, they will not collect it. Even if it can be collected, they don't know how to use it. Even if they can use it, they don't have weapons to use. So, from the Rubik's Cube to the energy weapon, S.H.I.E.L.D. does not know how long it will take. Just like Hill said, don't know the time. Looking at the experimental site where a bunch of people are still building. Fury looked back at Hill with his arms in his arms. You said, does Angel have a way to use these things? Do not know. Hill immediately replied honestly. Although I don't know, I guess Angel can do it. Maybe they already know how to use this thing. After all, their civilization level is too high. Hill said this. Fury realized that Angel was still an alien. After all, the legend of Angel doesn't know how long ago it prevailed on the Earth. So everyone treats Angel as their own. Fury thought for a while with his chin lowered with one hand. If we are exposed, and Angel needs this after seeing this, what shall we do? This problem is indeed a bit difficult to handle. Fury wondered if that was the case. How to solve this problem? Hill is also considering this issue. Just say no, that's not appropriate. But to Angel for nothing, although from a personal point of view, it is definitely better for Angel to get this than others. Because Angel won't do anything bad when he gets this. But people may be, even if it is a country. Fury and Hill also feel that giving Angel is definitely better than giving it to the country. After all, to be honest, the country knows the shady scenes. So the country is not comparable to Angel at all. Hill thought for a while. If Angel wants it, I'd rather find a way to give it to Angel. Fury nodded in agreement, but he added, but we have to figure out how to treat it as a transaction. If it is directly given to Angel, the government will not agree, and we will suffer too. Hill nodded in agreement. The reason why both would think so. That's because both of them have read the energy weapon plan. Energy gun, energy cannon, energy missile, energy intercontinental missile. If these are developed, is SHIELD still called the National Land Strategic Defense Attack and Logistics Support Bureau? And what is the difference between this behavior and the previous Stark? It's not just yourself that hurts in the end. The development of this weapon will definitely lead to the death of a group of its own people. The above said it was against aliens. But they will definitely aim this thing at their own people. So when Mr. President said that Fury had been added, Fury also asked Bian, are you sure? Right. Fury just didn't want to accept this task. What he had in mind to deal with supernatural forces was the Avengers plan. Not an energy weapon plan. ... Time came tonight. In the Sky City, Kesha brushed her hair in front of the dressing table in the second floor of her attic. She just took a bath. At the moment the hair was still wet. In the morning, Luo Hua gave her the first piece of clothing. At the moment, she hung it on the bedside. And it's very close to where I slept. You can reach it with your hand. Kesha sat in front of the dressing table, but did not look in the mirror. She glanced around the dressing table, then jumped over the balcony with a wide view, and she could see the palace where Luo Hua lived all the way. Bang, bang. At this time, there was a knock on the door of Kesha downstairs. She stood up and walked to the balcony. Then looked down. With that long black hair and a smile on his face, it's not Liang Bing who is looking at him. Come up. Hear Kesha's consent. Liang Bing didn't even leave the main entrance. He flew up with a wave of his wings. Kesha was also used to her escape, so she walked in directly. Liang Bing walked in and took a look at the first outfit Luo Hua gave them, then walked to the sofa and sat down. Kesha continued to sit at the dressing table and trim her hair. Then she glanced at Liang Bing through the mirror and said, "What's the matter? I don't believe you are here to chat with me." She knew Liang Bing well. Basically, everything is going to go to the Three Treasures Palace. Listen to the cold ice. Immediately he got up from the sofa and walked to Kesha to take her comb and comb it for her. We are sisters, it's okay, I definitely need to come to chat. Kesha heard Liang Bing's wrangling. She reached for the comb in Liang Bing's hand and wanted to brush it by herself before rushing Liang Bing away. Okay, I said. Liang Bing glanced at Kesha to get back the comb. Immediately retracted his hand to tell the truth. Ahem, Liang Bing said formally, then suddenly leaned into Kesha's ear and asked softly, what do you think of Hexi? What do you think of Hexi? Kesha looked at Liang Bing through the mirror. Hexi is Hexi, I don't have any opinion. But she has been with Wong for so long in advance. Liang Bing reminded Kesha. Kesha knew Liang Bing's careful thinking, and simply replied directly. Then Alen has been with Wong for so long in advance, so why don't you ask me what Alen thinks? That's different, Liang Bing retorted. Why is it different? Kesha asked rhetorically. With silence, Kesha turned her head and lit Liang Bing's small head, severely. I can't guess what you are thinking, so you can't think seriously, and research science and technology well. Hexi helped Wong share so much in advance. Isn't this stump that she deserves it? Liang Bing held his head, wrongly tearful, in his eyes. But Hexi also thought about it, and she did it in advance. This shouldn't be what she deserves, she's sneaking away. You. Kesha didn't know what to say and write. She sighed and reminded Liang Bing solemnly. I don't care about your careful thoughts, you can fight with Hexi as you want. I won't participate in this, no matter what you think, no matter what you do, don't take me with you. How can it be said that it is fighting? Liang Bing was the first to refute Kesha's language. Then he explained. Even though you are unique to my sister, Hockey took the lead. If you see Wong lying on Hexi tomorrow morning, what's your mood? Hear this. Although Kesha's hand along her hair did not stop. But her eyes in the mirror flickered. At the same time, Liang Bing, who had been waiting to see Kesha's eyes, immediately seized the opportunity. Look, your eyes are betraying you. You can't stand Hexi sneaking away. You are still pretending to be with your sister here. Kesha, you go out. After a while, a figure with long black hair covering his head stood outside Kesha's courtyard and curled his lips. Just make your mouth hard, I'll go to Hexi. And Hexi here. At the moment she was sitting on the fenced sofa on the balcony reading a book. One leg is flat and one is half bent. There is a small table next to it. There are a few snacks and a tea set on it. Hexi leaned against a small cushion behind him again. While reading the book, I also look at the direction of Luo Hua's courtyard from time to time. At this time, just before Liang Bing reached the door, Hexi had already lowered his head and found her. Liang Bing walked to Hexi's courtyard and waved. Hexi, taking a sip of tea, Hexi said flatly, come on. The difference from last time is, Liang Bing did not directly fly up. She actually came to the balcony on the second floor of Hexi honestly this time. Sitting on the sofa in the circle of the fence, Liang Bing pulled down the big long legs that Hexi had placed on it and sat beside Hexi. Hexi glanced at her strangely. Then continue reading. If Liang Bing didn't speak first, then when she was about to go to bed at night, she drove away Liang Bing directly. Based on their two waves of eyes and the clash in their hearts in the morning, Hexi knew that it was okay to talk to Liang Bing. Liang Bing looked at Hexi, who ignored him. She proactively picked up the teapot and poured 2 cups of tea. Hexi, you have been with Luo Hua for so long, does he have any hobbies? Hexi removed his eyes from the book, then looked at Liang Bing seriously. Even when the king is away, please call Luo Hua Roar the king. I mean intimacy, Liang Bing explained quickly. If I'm talking about business, I must be called Wong, then when everyone is fine together. I call Roar and Luo Hua represent close relationships. Hexi frowned as he listened. But there is nothing wrong with what Liang Bing said. Hexi couldn't refute it either. Seeing that Hexi was ready to read a book again, Liang Bing hurriedly stopped her. Hey, you haven't said what Wong likes yet. You don't know anything after staying for so long. What do you think? Hexi glanced at Liang Bing, then waved. Suddenly a pile of books and materials were released from her dark plane. Liang Bing looked around. The posture of the knee pillow, if you make your boyfriend more comfortable lying on his lap. Ear-picking techniques and comfortable techniques, how to treat each other's hair more comfortably. Which little actions can enhance the relationship? How to get what you like. The title of the last book, Liang Bing, has not been clear yet. Hexi took the book back in an instant and threw it back into the dark plane. Liang Bing's eyes straightened when he looked at it. After all these materials were collected by Hexi, Liang Bing quickly stepped forward and grabbed Hexi's bare hand. Hexa, no, don't ask. Before Liang Bing finished speaking, Hexi interrupted what she wanted to ask. Aren't you asking what Wong likes? Then I'll tell you. Wong likes to sleep on my lap when he is resting. Wong likes me to pick his ears when he is tired. When it's okay, I can massage his head to relax. At the same time, he can comb his hair with his hands. This time, Liang Bing was really speechless. I really want to express what she is in her heart now. That is, eating lemon is too sour. Liang Bing took a whole bite. She didn't know what to say. The hobbies Hexi talked about were all after she won. If Luo Hua has other hobbies, Hexi certainly doesn't know it now. So now when Hexi's hobby, he must have already mastered that. The real unknown is to discover on your own. But the purpose of Liang Bing's visit this time has actually been achieved. Her goal is to understand what Hexi has mastered. Then start from the aspect of mastering, to understand Luo Hua deeper. In the end, Liang Bing will become his own when he masters what he unearths. Just like what Hexi just said. After being silent for a while, Liang Bing took a cup of tea from the table and took a sip. Then you think, which aspect is better for me to study now? Wong gave me freedom of options, and I don't know which one to study first. Hearing that, Liang Bing suddenly became official. Hexi also removed the cushion on the back, and then seriously sat up and suggested to Liang Bing. First of all, if you look at it from the perspective of the future, I suggest that you research out a sky gate that can jump and a flight machine that can jump as soon as possible. Space jump refers to going directly from one point in the universe to another point. However, the flight device of space transition only refers to the transition and acceleration through the wormhole, which is equivalent to taking a shortcut through a special channel. So the speed is far from jumping ability, and the energy required for jumping must be more than for jumping. But the advantage is that the materials can be transmitted and transported all the time. Liang Bing thought for a while. Then he nodded seriously. Then she stood up. The well-known man walked down and said, "Then I will ask the king again and see what he says." Hexi opened his eyes wide. With some disbelief, he watched Liang Bing go down step by step. "Can you find such a reason? And it seems reasonable." She looked at the time outside the balcony. At the moment it was already more than 10 o'clock in the evening. There are shining stars hanging in the sky. Are you telling me to find the king at this time? Although Wong must not be asleep at this time, you can find this. Something is wrong. Seeing that Liang Bing was about to walk out of the courtyard, Hexi stopped her on the balcony. "Cool ice. Do you want to find the king at this time? You interrupted him to rest." Liang Bing replied a little bouncily. "It's okay, the king won't beat me if I get knocked on the head a few times." Hexi. At the moment's palace, Luo Hua is leaning on the large bed cushion in the bedroom to use the energy projection system to study other technologies. Now that the third generation has been developed successfully, Angel has become so much. So, as the host, isn't the amount of calculations enough for him to allocate? Thought of this, Luo Hua directly thought of the celestial computer, the treasure house of knowledge. But if you want to build it now, there are still many problems. For example, how to communicate with energy. For example, where is the celestial supercomputing set up without wormhole technology? There are other problems to be solved. But if I really want to come back, there is indeed a way to solve this problem quickly. That is, space gem. Its function need not be explained in detail. Energy is close to infinity, space can be opened up, and group transmission can be carried out, etc., which are all gem's ability. But as long as you understand a little bit, this space gem is the perfect medium for setting up celestial supercomputers. With space gem, Angel's supercomputing is not only extremely safe, there is also endless energy that can keep supercomputing at full load all the time. To know the Angel civilization in Luo Hua's impression, if the treasure house of knowledge is fully calculated, that energy consumption is based on several solar systems as a unit. But with space gem, none of this is a problem. So, Luo Hua must get the space gem after he appears. Bang, bang. At this time, there was a knock on the door. For her own angel, Luo Hua would not see it with insight. All angels do not look at Angel with the eyes of insight, because this was originally an attitude towards the crushing of biotechnology. So you can't aim at people in your own home. Come in. Wait until Luo Hua finishes. He also got off the bed, wearing a pair of king slippers that only his own king wore. In fact, it's just a plain shoe, the kind that doesn't have any style. After getting out of the bedroom, Hexi and Liang Bing stood aside early. Good guys. The point of Liang Bing came to Luo Hua's expectation. But why is Hexi here too? Seeing Luo Hua's puzzled gaze, Hexi hurriedly explained. Liang Bing was discussing the research direction together in my room just now. Then she was not sure, saying that she would come to you overnight, so I followed without worry. What does it mean to be uneasy? Hearing Hexi's uneasy words, Liang Bing immediately retorted. I'm here to ask questions and suggestions. Almost understand the cause and effect. Luo Hua took them to the pavilion and sat down. At the moment it was night, but the fluorescence emitted by the sky city still made it clear wherever it was. And it's not dazzling at all. The stream in the distance was still trickling with clear water. The flowers and plants next to it are still very bright, and you can smell the fragrance from time to time. Next, after listening to the wormhole suggestion that Liang Bing and Hexi discussed, Luo Hua nodded and agreed. Hexi is right. Soon we will negotiate with other cosmic forces. Such a kind of flight device and fixed teleportation skygate is exactly what we need now. But in terms of energy, you don't need to worry about it. I have a way and enough for this. Really, Liang Bing looked at Luo Hua in surprise. Wong, if I don't care about energy consumption, I can study many aspects. Ensure you are satisfied. Oh, Luo Hua took out a set of gaps from the dark plane. It's up to you, I'm really curious. Saw Luo Hua took out a tea set. Hexi just wanted to pick up the tea on Luo Hua's right-hand side. At the moment Liangbing, who was on Luo Hua's left, took it and poured it on the three of them. This time, it is Liangbing's victory. Go ahead and win. Liang Bing took the opportunity to look at Hexi's eyes. But Hexi didn't show anything, instead she waited quietly. You think she is a little girl. The expressions of joy, anger, sorrow, and joy were all hung on his face. Wait for the cold ice to pour the tea. Hexi came forward and brought it to Luo Hua and said something. Wong, not long ago, Alen and I used the eyes of insight to discover the ability of magic in this world. They learn, practice and then increase their mental ability and then use spells to cast them. I think this thing might help us a bit. Magic. It is another magical power in this universe. It can determine the power of magic through the power of spirit. But in the meanwhile, there is another existence called black magic. It was obtained by a necromancer named Dormammu who abandoned his body after discovering the dark dimension. Now, this person named Dormammu is already the lord of the dark dimension. But Ancient One still uses Holy Place, dark magic and Eye of Agamotto Asgardian Earth. This is to prevent the invasion of the dark dimension Dormammu. Luo Hua put his palm on the table and knocked while thinking. Yes, the power of magic really helps us. If you can understand magic, then our angel's ability is unparalleled. The utility of magic has a lot to do with the strength of the spirit. Needless to say, angel's spiritual power is at its peak. So Luo Hua was thinking just now. If magic and technology are integrated together, the power of angel's spirit is used. So what wonderful ability will erupt? Here Hexi got Luo Hua's consent. She nodded. Okay, I, Alen, and Kayla will all study this next. Alen and Kayla helped me scan and collect data with the Eye of Insight. I will study how magic is applied to angel. Because the reclusive place of the Supreme Magician Ancient One is in the Himalayas. Alen and Kayla's eyes of insight could not completely scan there. In addition, Ancient One has been staying in her reclusive place for 28 years. So Angel cannot scan unscrupulously for the time being. But as long as it is a place where Ancient One is not protected by magic, Angel's insight can be scanned. Does the magic have the abilities of teleportation, space, and wormholes? At this time, Liang Bing asked curiously. After all, this is her professional ability. Yes, Luo Hua nodded. Ancient One has the magic of opening a portal directly after drawing a circle with ability. But that magic can only go where you have been, or where you know. Liang Bing nodded while thinking. This ability is really amazing for her. But if it can be used, coupled with the wormhole technology, it must be very powerful. After discussing these things, Luo Hua looked up at the stars in the sky. Then he looked at Hexi and Liangbing on both sides. It's almost 12 o'clock, you will count as staying overnight with me if you don't go back. Hexi didn't know what he was thinking when he heard it. When Liang Bing heard this, he immediately sat back and said, then wait until the night is over before leaving. Hexi suddenly gave Liang Bing a roll of eyes when he heard it. Then she stood up and walked to Liang Bing's side. He grabbed her wrist and said, go back soon, don't disturb the king's rest. Hey, Liang Bing was dragged away by Hexi reluctantly. Wait, it's 10 minutes away. Hexi, go faster. ... Time passed day by day. But today's shield is a bit wrong. Fury held the satellite phone with one hand on his waist and said in surprise. What fact? Phil Coulson agent, you mean you discovered Captain America during World War II? It's unbelievable, but what I say is true. At the moment Phil Coulson had already replied on the carrier plane. Captain America is already on the way back, where do we arrange him? What is his status now? Fury asked. Phil Coulson looked back at Steve who was still in a coma. Captain America is still asleep and does not know when it will wake up. This requires a complete set of medical diagnosis. Fury thought about it for a while. Immediately began to arrange people to assemble a small living room. Then we have to call in a whole set of diagnostic doctors. After all, Captain America fell into the ocean. And he hasn't died after all these years. This definitely needs to be checked. Although he knew that Captain America had injected a real infinite formula potion. But it shouldn't be so powerful. After a while, with the sound of the transport plane landing, a group of agents in black ran over on a stretcher carrying a well-built man. Follow the directions indicated by other agents. After a while, Captain America was sent to the makeshift place. At the moment Fury, Phil Coulson, Hill looked at Steve lying on the bed. Haven't waited for them to speak. The medical diagnosis team also arrived. They saw Captain America on the bed. All of them opened their mouths in surprise. Although shocked, it is impossible for them to leak out. Because these are all doctors of S.H.I.E.L.D., the news cannot be disclosed. Then they gathered around Captain America. Then take out various instruments from the assistant next to him and start to check Captain America. Look at the pupils, pry the mouth, take a blood test, look at the younger brother and so on. After a meal, about less than an hour, this time the doctor in charge came to Fury with the written information. Sir, these are all the statuses that can be checked at the moment, and they are all recorded in it. Fury nodded. Let them go back. Looking at the pages of information in hand, Fury flipped over it casually, and then threw it to Hill behind him. Phil Coulson asked after seeing it, what happened to Captain America? Just when Hill opened it to check, Fury replied silently with his hands in the trench coat. It's that the body enters a dormant state, similar to those hibernating animals. But Captain America's dormant state is even stronger. From World War II to today, Captain America's physical condition may have been only a few months later. Phil Coulson understood right away. Then he continued to ask, how long will it take to wake up from the dormant state? From the moment you dug him out, he is already activating his body. Fury looked at Steve and guessed, maybe it won't be a few days, wait until all the cells in his body are active, and then get a good night's sleep. At this time, after turning over the information and handing it to Phil Coulson, Hill asked, then how do we explain to Captain America, who will wake up in a while, that this is the 21st century? Fury just thought about it for a moment. Phil Coulson, who had already read the information at this time, proposed. I suggest not to explain this right away. After my understanding, there are still many regrets for Captain America's sudden disappearance during World War II. So I suggest to simulate the environment at that time, and then let Captain America accept it step by step. After thinking about it for a while, Fury agreed with Phil Coulson. Immediately arrange the people around to understand and build the scene products of World War II and so on. The construction project is temporarily handed over to Phil Coulson of Captain America fan. Fury and Hill leave here temporarily, because the person in charge of the Blue Cube project notified them just now. The communication between the Rubik's Cube and the equipment has been established. All of a sudden, Fury and Hill hurriedly took a helicopter to this experimental base in the suburbs of New York. Take the elevator to the underground several hundred meters deep. As soon as they came here, they saw the Rubik's Cube sandwiched by an instrument. Then there are many cables thick enough to connect to the instrument. Fury came to the instrument. Looking at this thing with hands on hips, a little angrily said, what is this? What are you doing? The chief engineer to study this Blue Cube project was personally invited by Fury. His name is Eric Sevig. Is a PhD of a physicist. Doctor definitely is not enough to represent his strength. But Eric made the Rubik's Cube like this without Fury's unification, which made Fury very angry. What if you make trouble with the Rubik's Cube? If something goes wrong, then his S.H.I.E.L.D. director also followed and something went wrong. And it might just be gone. At this time, Eric pressed a button on the computer linked to the instrument and walked over. Sir, I found that the energy overflow of this Rubik's Cube has frequency. As long as we can analyze this frequency and then stimulate it, we can grasp this overflow energy. Fury looked down at these arm-thick cables under his feet. Rely on these. That's enough. Eric replied in the affirmative. We only activate and collect the overflowing energy, not using the Rubik's Cube. If you want to use Rubik's Cube, I think our current technology is not enough. Fury, who didn't understand this, nodded. Then you can study the Rubik's Cube, but you have to remember. Fury looked at Eric and said profoundly, the Rubik's Cube is very precious, no matter what, the Rubik's Cube must not have any problems. No problem, Chief Fury. Eric also gave Fury a ticket. But what they don't know is, as long as this Rubik's Cube is activated once, it means that the Earth has been exposed to the major forces of the universe. And it also announced that we have begun to use this power. What are the consequences of that? It is definitely an invasion of other civilizations. After all, who would leave such a good thing not to act? But they don't know this. Still groping blindly. The next day, castle in the sky, inside the courtyard of the Luohua Palace. Early in the morning, Luohua just sat on the pavilion and heard the roar beckoning outside. Turned his head and took a look. Liang Bing walked quickly, happy and wanted to fly but couldn't fly. The entire Sky City can fly anywhere, but only in and near the palace cannot fly. Unless it is a particularly urgent time, the King Palace will not give flight. So Liangbing would be like that just now. Wong, I discovered a new technology. Wait until Liang Bing comes to the courtyard. Luohua asked her to sit down and take a sip of tea from Roar. After Liangbing took a sip, he immediately happily projected his newly discovered technology with energy technology. Look at Luohua, I found a technology that uses waves to sense the stability of nearby time and space. If we load this, we only need to be within the transmission range of the wave. No matter what technology or magical teleportation the enemy uses, we can find out in advance. Even the portal you mentioned that day, as long as there are traces of instability in the nearby time and space, we can immediately detect it in advance. According to Liang Bing's statement, this technology is called fluctuating space-time detection technology. Why do you explain this? Because this is to detect the stability of nearby time and space through the motion of waves. Such detection methods will cause spatial instability as long as someone in nearby time and space wants to teleport, jump, and jump. Instability in space will emit abnormal fluctuations. And such abnormal fluctuations will detect Liang Bing's technology. So after the technology of Liangbing was developed, angel civilization will not be attacked firsthand or sneak attack under any circumstances. After reading Liangbing's technology, Luohua understood it after a while. So, start creating. Ding. Angel civilization technology set successfully. Fluctuating space-time detection technology. By detecting different fluctuations in nearby time and space, this technology can predict the enemy's time and space trends in advance. Start creating. Input energy. Load this technology for all angels. Load complete. After a while, when Luohua opened his eyes, it also announces that this technology has been loaded. Looking at the cold ice full of expectation. Well, I have loaded you all with this technology, and at the same time, the data feedback from its investigation will appear in your system. After Liang Bing heard it, immediately waved his hand and started using the wormhole handling technique. Immediately afterwards, her investigative techniques gave feedback on which position in time and space had fluctuated. And this kind of feedback is actually synchronized with the use of handling technology. In other words, the delay time of fluctuating space-time detection technology is very short. This is so practical. Then Luohua also experimented. The feedback effect is exactly the same as that of the cold ice experiment. With this technology, at least it becomes impossible for Angel to be attacked in time and space. Long Bing, you did a good job this time. Luohua praised her. Then, Liang Bing hesitation asked, are there any rewards? Reward, good. Luohua smiled. What reward do you want? The reward and punishment system is normal. But looking at Liang Bing's appearance, Luohua always feels like raising animals. I don't need any realistic rewards. Liang Bing smiled suddenly. She walked to Luohua, walked to the place where Hexi was originally sitting, and sat down next to him. Then Liang Bing softened and fell directly on Luohua's body. Rest your head on Luohua's shoulders. She then took Luohua's right hand and placed it on her right shoulder. Finally, Liang Bing said silently, it only takes half an hour. Forehead. Looking at Liang Bing's meaningless behavior. This reward is pretty easy. His right hand was holding Liang Bing's shoulder. Luohua can only reach out for the teacup with his left hand for the time being. But it hasn't waited for Luohua to touch the teacup. Liang Bing picked it up first. She raised her hand to Luo Hua's lips, and the significance was self-evident. Luo Hua laughed and said, "Do you know what we are like now?" "Like what?" Liang Bing blinked and asked. "Like King Zhou and Daji." After speaking, Luo Hua drank the good wine, fed by cold ice. "Then I am the nine-tailed fox of the Charm King," Liang Bing said, putting down Luo Hua's teacup. Then stretched out his jade hand and stroked Luo Hua's chin and face. "She's not the kind that sticks to her palms yet." Liang Bing used his fingers to gently stick it on. "In short, it is very attractive." Luo Hua turned her head and looked down at Liang Bing slightly. On the contrary, Liang Bing didn't avoid it. He gave Luo Hua a glamorous look. Have to say, Liang Bing's winking hand is indeed fascinating. But Luo Hua turned around flatly, cough-hum. Liang Bing immediately withdrew his hands and eyes honestly, and no longer continued to behave. Sometimes excessive indulgence is not enough. Liang Bing's skin was already close to the limit this time. If Luo Hua let her act casually, maybe Liang Bing will be able to catch you in the future. It's just a presumptuous meal. That's probably not a problem that lipstick can solve. Of the two, Liang Bing must be unable to get up. But that's also a big deal. Patter, 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 patter. At this time, 2 footsteps came from outside the door. It was Hexi and Kesha who came. Liang Bing did not show any unexpected performance. She just sat upright, then waved her hand and took out a few plates of snacks from the dark plane and put them on the table to eat. She took one in her mouth, and she helped Luo Hua take one and handed it to him. Luo Hua, who hasn't eaten snacks for a long time, sees that Liang Bing still has such things. Suddenly it tasted good in his mouth. Although this may be the reason why I haven't really eaten for a long time. Since he was reborn as Angel, he forgot about eating. Because energy allows him to replenish energy without eating. And even if you eat, it will be decomposed cleanly. But that energy supply is too little. Luo Hua is too busy to create Angel, so he never thought about eating. But the snack that Liang Bing handed him this time, it did make Luo Hua interested. Bang, bang. At this time, Hexi and Kesha stood at the door watching Luo Hua knock on the door while they were eating. Luo Hua looked at them and nodded, meaning that he could come in. Then Hexi discovered that her position was robbed by Liang Bing. And Liang Bing, sitting there leisurely eating snacks. Since Luo Hua was still here, Hexi could only walk to the side of Liang Bing and sit down. Then Kesha sat on Luo Hua's left. Luo Hua picked up another snack and put it in his mouth. Then he looked at Hexi and Kesha and said, "You can try this snack. I brought it with cold ice. It tastes not bad." Brought by cold ice. Hexi and Kesha took one in their mouths and tasted it. Let's not talk about other things. The taste of cold ice is really good, it is very delicious. Where did you get it? Hexi asked strangely. This thing is not mortal at first glance. I made it myself, Liang Bing replied with some pride. You made it yourself? Kesha looked at Liang Bing curiously. Now even Luo Hua is a little curious. In the past few days, how did Liang Bing find these foods? Yeah, Liang Bing raised her little head. Then began to explain. I was a little bit greedy when I was researching the other day. Then I will simply analyze and process the mortal snacks through the eyes of insight. Finally, we will go through the continuous trials and attempts of Sky City's production modules. These delicious snacks are made. Good guys. It is indeed the foodie in Luo Hua's mind. This is really not bad at all. Well, you can study and study if you are okay, this stuff is quite delicious. After speaking, Luo Hua took another one and threw it in his mouth. Liang Bing saw this bright seem. Luo Hua is interested in food. Suddenly she nodded obediently and said, okay. Patter, patter. At this time, the sound of 2 people's footsteps came again outside the door. There can still be footsteps at this time. Only Kayla and Alen are the only ones. They talked and laughed and walked to Luo Hua's courtyard gate. Then sorted out the emoticons and tapped the prompt bar next to it. The purpose of this is to simulate a knock on the door when we are open. Wait until the 2 come in. Alen first said. Diaresis, Wong, I found that our technology has one more. Quote. Hear the words. Hexi and Kesha also nodded at the same time. They came for the same reason. You said this was researched out when Liang Bing came just now. Then I will directly load this technology on you. Lianbing can explain this usage to you. Luo Hua turned his head and glanced at Liang Bing. The sign can come forward and explain. Then, Liang Bing explained to everyone the usefulness and usage of this technology. After a while, Alen and Kayla nodded at the same time to express their understanding. At the same time, they suddenly looked in a certain direction of the sky. At this time even Hexi, Liang Bing, and Kesha frowned and looked over there. In the end, it didn't wait for Kayla and Alen to do anything. Go ahead, Luo Hua said unmovedly while holding his teacup. Hear Luo Hua's consent. Alen and Kayla looked at each other. Suddenly he opened his wings and instantly disappeared. I said before, flying is not allowed inside the palace, unless it is an emergency. Therefore, this is indeed an emergency, relatively speaking. Because Liang Bing just finished talking about this fluctuating space-time detection technique. The result is now available. At the moment, in the sky outside the Sky City, 2 figures with wings, armor, and swords flew here instantly. Alen and Kayla pointed their swords at a position in advance and kept silent. Next, a golden spark revolved in the sky out of thin air. After a while, a teleporter appeared before their eyes. Alen and Kayla opened the eyes of insight at the same time. But waited a while, there was still no movement across the portal. Kayla immediately pointed at the portal with a long sword and said in a cold voice. Ms. Ancient One, you opened the portal near the Sky City, can I consider it a provocative behavior? Definitely not. A voice came from the other end of the portal. But your Sky City floats 10,000 meters high. Apart from using magic in the sky, I can't open it on your territory. At this moment, a woman without hair and wearing white plain clothes leaked half of her body from the portal. She has oppressive eyes and a tall nose. That extraordinary temperament also represents the ability she has. Your long sword is pointed like this, and it is not easy for me to meet you. Although Ancient One's eyes are very oppressive. But Alen and Kayla still stared at Ancient One without any slack. This universe can make them awe and look down. Only the King of Angel. No one else can. Hear the words of Ancient One. Kayla still did not put down their swords. Alen directly said coldly, explain your intentions directly, and I will inform the king as appropriate. If there is nothing wrong, please leave immediately. If there is a second time, it will be regarded as a declaration of war against Angel. Facing Alen's cold and serious warning sound, Ancient One smiled. Do you accept being a guest? I want to have a chat with your King of Angel. After hearing what Ancient One said, Alen held the sword in his right hand and did not move. Tap the Dark Energy Communication Technology transmission channel next to your ear with your left hand. Wong, Ancient One said he would like to be a guest in Sky City and have a chat with you. Closing curly bracket. Take her into the palace of the king, I will go again later. Closing curly bracket. Yes, closing curly bracket. The communication ends. Alen put away the sword. Kayla also put it away when she saw it. The king agrees, follow me. Finished. With a wave of their wings, Alen and Kayla slowly flew towards the Sky City. In that golden portal, Ancient One also walked out of it. At the same time flew with Alen and the others. Patter, patter, when 2 metal boots fell to the ground. Both Ancient One and Alen landed on the avenue of Sky City at the same time. Look towards the center from here. That glorious hall is Luo Hua's palace. Surrounded by various buildings, but you don't feel that this is a civilization with extraordinary combat effectiveness. Because it is so beautiful. Whether it is the surrounding decoration, flowers, plants, trees, etc., it is beautiful and extraordinary. It's like being in a fairyland. Ancient One looked around as they walked with Alen. Even she was attracted by the scenery here. We call ourselves the most beautiful creatures in the universe, not verbally, but actually. Alen led the way and explained without looking back. Definitely, we have not yet come into contact with other cosmic races. If that happens, we won't be proud of it. Speaking of this, Alen won't say anything. Because by that time, Angel will be hailed as the most beautiful race by the universe. Is hailed as. Ancient One turned from the sight of the scenery to the 2 angels in front. Chapter 81. If it is more beautiful than beauty, Angel is indeed number 1 in the universe. And although the combat power has not yet been figured out, But just now I was blocked before opening the portal. Angel's combat power should not be low. At this time, Kayla walked ahead and said without looking back. You are the first outsider to enter Angel's civilized territory. At the same time, our civilization does not allow other males and male creatures to enter. But even if you are a woman, you have to be qualified. Hear this. Ancient One also leaked a little smile behind. At the very least, the last sentence is qualified to refer to oneself. But, isn't your king a male? Ancient One asked. Suddenly, Alen and Kayla's footsteps were paused. They looked back at Ancient One deeply and seriously. Except the king. Next, an avenue accompanied by beautiful scenery and brilliant buildings. Alen, Kayla, and Ancient One slowly walked into the palace. Alen and Kayla stepped forward and pushed the door open. A red carpet leading directly to the palace of the king appeared in front of him. Ancient One watched this glorious hall walk in. The most majestic position in the middle is obviously the seat of King Angel. But at the moment there was no one. Alen brought Ancient One to the center of this hall. Then, not waiting for Ancient One to question, 4 footsteps came from outside the door of the palace. Patta, 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 patta. With the approach of footsteps, Ancient One looked back. Angel, a man wearing a tuxedo, step by step as if the starry sky is in his hands, walked in the forefront. He has sword eyebrows and star eyes, and he has a magnificent appearance. A huge momentum from the inside out swept the palace. This must be Luo Hua. And behind Luo Hua, 3 angels with blonde, silver and black hair followed behind him. Hexi walked on Luo Hua's right, his eyes were flat and watery. Kesha walked on Luo Hua's left, her majestic face full of deterrence. Liang Bing followed Luo Hua, who didn't say she didn't have the aura of the first 2. But her impenetrable posture is enough not to let others take it lightly. Until Luo Hua is on the throne. All angels under the throne are facing Luo Hua with their right hands on their hearts. Then bow himself to salute. Here, Ms. Ancient One, a seat. Luo Hua finished. Kayla gestured to the chair beside Ancient One with her hand. Wait until Ancient One sits on it. Kira returned to her original position and stood. So to the end, only 2 people were sitting there. One is Luo Hua who is on the throne. One is Ancient One sitting below. Besides, Angel will not sit down now. Because only when there are no outsiders, they will sit down on the chairs in the palace. This shows respect for the King of Angel. Listen to Alen, you want to chat with me? Luo Hua looked at Alen. Alen nodded. Ancient One now also knows that Angel has an unknown secret call ability. Then she spoke again. Yes, I have been observing Angel for a long time. We have been observing you for a long time. Kayla immediately replied when he heard the uncomfortable words of Ancient One. Luo Hua waved her hand to Kayla. Then he said to Ancient One. Just say what you want to say, Angel doesn't mean anything. What a dumb puzzle. What a riddle. What's in it? Angel doesn't make these disgusting things. Unless it is a normal joke, but it will not be too deep. After Ancient One heard what Luo Hua said, she simply looked at Luo Hua and asked. I have only one question. What will you do after the King of Angel gets the space gem? This sentence confuses Angel except Luo Hua. When did the king take the space gem? Luo Hua did not disclose any news about space gem. I remembered that I had never popularized this knowledge with angels. Luo Hua waved. All the gem data were transferred to their system. Then, listen to Ancient One ask this sentence. Luo Hua smiled. It seems that as I thought, Ancient One can't see itself in Time Gem. Why don't you seek answers from Time Gem? Ancient One knows that Luo Hua asks knowingly. But still explained. I can't find the answer there. If you can't find it, after getting the space gem, Luo Hua will immediately develop a technology that transcends reality. Powerful energy through space gem. This technology can become a small reality gem. Then pass this technique. Not only Luo Hua, but the entire angel civilization will be hidden in the long history of the past, present, and past. Even the Eye of Agamotto or Space Gem can't see the trace of Luo Hua. Ancient One was good at observing Luo Hua before. But after observing that Luo Hua got the Space Gem, the following news is gone. But what she didn't know was, wait until the time really reaches that point. If Ancient One observes again, don't talk about the future. Before, now, Past. She can't even see it. But then Luo Hua said again, the reason you came to Angel is to know the answer. While saying this, Luo Hua's eyes have been staring at Ancient One's eyes. His eyes seem to be able to speak. It means, your purpose is not this, don't lie. Seeing Luo Hua's eyes that had already seen everything, Ancient One smiled suddenly. It seems that you know more than I thought. Luo Hua was silent, waiting for the next sentence of Ancient One. Yes, I am not worried about what will happen to you after I can't observe it. Because each of your angels is enough to pick up Mjolnir. I believe in your souls and the civilization of Angel. Yes, Ancient One is right. Every angel in Angel civilization can pick up Mjolnir. So Ancient One does not need to worry about whether Angel will do evil. Will it cause destruction to the earth? Otherwise, see such a powerful civilization developing. Ancient One has already come up for you to destroy it. It is impossible to let the Angel civilization develop to this day. And Angel civilization regards the earth as its own jurisdiction. This is the representative of the change direction, and Ancient One guards the home together. But Angel is still a bit different after all. Luo Hua doesn't care about the current earth. The earth nowadays doesn't even have a unity, and it is troublesome for him to see it by himself. Therefore, Luo Hua was ready to deal with it after the earth was unified, or he was unified manually by himself. Facing Ancient One's current rhetoric, Luo Hua is still satisfied. So, the purpose of your coming now is to negotiate in advance. Yes, Ancient One nodded. Then she looked at all the angels under the throne. Kesha, Hexi, Revamping, Alen, Kyla. After reading all the faces, Ancient One exclaimed, everyone has the ability to become a supreme magician. Your angel's potential is really too great. Even my future apprentice Stephen Strange is a bit short. This is more than the first time Ancient One sighed. During her time observing Angel, she has already lamented the terrible ability of Angel countless times. At this time, Alen said disdainfully, Supreme Magician. No angel will care about that title. In our angel's opinion, it is not as good as my king's compliment. Alan's words were unanimously approved by the angels. Kesha, Hexi, Revamping and Kyla nodded together. Supreme Magician. X. King's praise. Square root square root square root. Ancient One saw this. Suddenly there was a trace of sadness in his eyes. She sighed in her heart. The tone was already a little envious. Your unity is something I have never seen in any civilization. Your goals are the same, your minds are the same, your beliefs are the same, your actions are the same, your souls are the same. After I can't see your king angel gets the space gem, sometimes I just think about it. Who can stop your wings in the universe? Ancient One has such sad thoughts for no reason. To know, Ancient One is nearly 500 years old. She has a total of 3 apprentices in her life so far. Her first apprentice had parted ways because of secretly studying dark magic. Her second apprentice was called Anthony Druid, who was also a hero at the time. Her third apprentice was Baron Mordo. Baron Mordo is a hereditary nobleman. He took the initiative to learn from Ancient One. Although Ancient One knew that he was wrong, the Ancient One at that time wanted to know if the future of Time Gem could change. So he accepted Baron Mordor and wanted to see if he could change him by himself. At the same time, I want to change the history of Time Gem. But obviously not. Mordo betrayed Ancient One behind. And backstab Ancient One. And her last apprentice was the future Dr. Steve Strange. That is, Dr. Strange. So looking at it for so many years, only the future Doctor Strange can comfort Ancient One. So after she saw the unprecedented cohesion of angel civilization, she was shocked and bitter again. Ancient One didn't think about whether he could accept an angel as his apprentice. But obviously not. In Angel's eyesight, nothing is more important than loyalty to your own king. But, Ancient One didn't want to just give up in vain. If you can't accept disciples, then give them magic. She couldn't bear to see that Angel had such a powerful ability and couldn't use it. And Angel trusts her enough. Is this all right? This definitely works. This is why Ancient One came here this time. That is negotiation. Friendly negotiations. Then, hear the words of Ancient One. Luo Hua smiled and said, then I will correct it. Angel is not the 2 wings that travel the universe. It's the soul. When Luo Hua said this sentence, all angels nodded together. The wings just represent Angel's appearance. And the soul is the true representative Angel. Ancient One was taken aback. Then he smiled and said, "Yes, I didn't want to be thorough." She re-looked at all angels present. Then he looked at Luo Hua and opened his mouth. Try again to ask, do you need books of magic? This statement came out. Alen took a direct step. I have said that we can't look up to the title of Supreme Magician. No, I think you got it wrong. Ancient One turned to look at Alen and explained. I mean, I can watch Kamar Taj's magic books for you for free. Even if it's dark magic, I can show it to you. This time, Luo Hua is a little bit different in his heart. Why did Ancient One do this? Just rely on Angel to do bad things. If it is only based on the noble soul of Angel, why do you want to show all the dark magic to Angel? This is impossible. Ancient One is not a fool. This is a magic book that none of her disciples can read casually. It is impossible for her to selflessly contribute her collection of books to a civilization. Speak directly, what do you want? Luo Hua said straightforwardly. If the benefits are equal in value, Luo Hua is willing to exchange. Ancient One looked at Luo Hua's eyes. It's not so much what I get or what I exchange, it's better to say that this is my way of changing directions. Next, Ancient One directly explained without obscurity. In this world, the invasion of other races in the universe is only one aspect. Dormammu, who has a dark dimension on the earth, is staring at this place. My life is limited, and my ability is limited. Steve may not be able to resist it. So when you master magic, it depends on your soul nature. That will naturally become the opposite of Dormammu. At that time, there is no need to say more about Ancient One. Because then Angel will naturally target Dormammu together. In this case, the earth not only belongs to Angel's jurisdiction. In addition, Dormammu will invade the earth after mastering magic. So everyone is on the same front. The possibility that the earth can hold will greatly increase. And Ancient One only needs to pay for magic books. This is in her heart. It is a stable and absolutely safe decision. Anyway, Angel will not do bad things. Ancient One trusts Angel enough. This is enough. In other words, you want to use magic books to unite us against Dormammu. Luo Hua summed it up. That's what it meant. Yes, Ancient One nodded. Suddenly, Luo Hua's legs overlapped, leaning on the right side of the throne. He supported his body with his right hand, and clicked on the armrest with his left hand as if he was thinking. Yes, Luo Hua is pretending to think about it. Not only does he want to show that Angel disdains this book, but it must be reluctant to accept it. After a period of time, the rhythm of Luo Hua's 4 fingers tapping the armrest echoed in the palace. This click sounds like it is beating on your heart every time. As if your life is in the hands of the master of this percussion. After a while, Luo Hua smiled suddenly. Ms. Ancient One, do you know how long Angel's lifespan is? Ancient One's eyes lit up. Regardless of how long the lifespan is. Luo Hua laughed. It means he accepted it. So Ancient One also smiled and guessed. Thousands of years. It has been highly rated for thousands of years. After countless years of changes, Asgard has thousands of years of longevity, and this is not everyone. In this universe, the lifespan of thousands of years is already the peak batch. But Luo Hua shook his head and said, that's just the newly born angel. Then Luo Hua did not continue. But Hexi took a step to popularize Ancient One. Angels' lowest lifespan will reach thousands of years. Although a generation of angels will not increase their lifespan by much, it still reaches 10,000 years. Since the second generation, angels' longevity noodles have been tens of thousands or even 100,000 years. The third generation is the upper age limit for a 6-figure start. 3 generations later, speaking of this, Hexi glanced at Ancient One whose eyes had grown, and finally added. Theories are unlimited. Yes. If the god body is developed after 3 generations. As long as Angel has energy in his body, he will not die because of his lifespan. Even if the body is gone, the atoms in the whole body can still absorb enough energy to resurrect. But this requires a certain amount of technology, but it is not difficult. After Hexi finished explaining, Luo Hua looked at the already shocked Ancient One again and said. This is Angel's potential, if we negotiate happily in the future. Then when your lifespan is approaching, Angel may be able to easily make you live for 10,000 years. But that requires you to reach the standard that Angel is worth saving. And now you have only lived for 500 years. Unknowingly, Ancient One has completely listened to it. She immediately asked, "What standard?" "The standard of the soul." This time, Kesha took over from the side. What is worth saving and what is not worth saving depends on the wishes of the King of Angel. The soul is a fact that a creature cannot change. But we have the right to judge. After all, it depends on whether Angel is willing to save you. Otherwise, even if your soul meets the standard. Luo Hua said that not saving is not saving. Ancient One nodded after understanding. Next, the matter has been said. Ancient One took a deep breath, and this visit was really a lot of insights. She originally thought that Angel was just a high-potential civilization. But now it seems, maybe they will be the top civilization in the universe in the future. So this book is too worthwhile. ... Fortunately, their Angel King accepted. Ancient One opened his eyes and looked at Kesha, Hexi and Revamping. She knew that these three should be the angel with the highest ability under Luo Hua at present. So Ancient One asked, "Next, which angels will the King of Angels send to Kamar Taj to learn magic?" According to the idea of Ancient One, send a few days to study with the highest ability. Then I learn to burn another book and come back to teach her angel. This is like an exchange student, but there are no students on Ancient One. But, Luo Hua nodded casually, then looked at Kyla and Alen and nodded. Kayla and Alen nodded intently. Then they all took a step forward and looked at Ancient One and said softly, "My name is Alen, and her name is Kyla. This time we will go to Kamar Taj with you." Ancient One was frustrated, but after thinking about it, the ability of her two angels is not bad. He nodded and stood up and looked at Luo Hua. This time, the conversation with the King of Angel received a good harvest. "I will take them to learn magic as soon as possible. I have been studying for more than half a year, otherwise it may take 2 to 3 years. This statement came out. Kesha, Hexi, Revamping, Kyla and Alen all looked at each other. Then they all couldn't help but laugh, looking at the very beautiful angels who covered their red lips and smiled lightly. Ancient One opened and closed his eyes for a long time, wondering why he was laughing. The more serious Kayla was relieved first. Then she walked to the front of Ancient One. "Open the eyes of insight." After 3 seconds, "Close the eye of insight." Kayla then lightly opened her red lips and said, "Ancient One was born at 12 hours 11 minutes and 43 seconds on June 5, 1566. At the Great Fire of London in 1666, you met Dormammu for the first time." Then, after saying a few things, Kayla just finished looking at Ancient One and smiled. "Do you still need to explain?" Ancient One opened its eyes wide and opened its mouth. Then it turned into a helpless smile. "Turn around and take the lead to walk outside the hall." Kira and Alen looked at each other alike, and they almost couldn't help laughing again. Then he turned back to salute Luo Hua, then hurriedly chased Ancient One away. On a certain street in New York, a well-proportioned muscle, a fitness man in a thin shirt stands in the center. He looked blankly at the busy streets around him. "I do not know how it is. It's as if you woke up and suddenly traveled to the future. This is beyond your imagination." At this time, several black sub-agent vehicles drove to the side of Captain America. Fury came down wearing the trench coat he would wear all year round. He looked at Captain America and said as kindly as possible, "Captain America, we will salvage the dormant you from the ocean. Welcome to Wake Up. That bad performance is that we want you to get used to it first." Captain America looked at the surrounding environment. "When is it now? 21st century. Fury replied, "You have slept for nearly 70 years. Captain America looked around, then at the sky. "I missed an appointment. ... Himalayas. Kamar Taj." At the moment Alen and Kayla just flew out of the portal following Ancient One. Patter, patter, after the metal boots stepped on the ground. Kira looked back at the golden portal. "This won't work. There is no even the most basic authentication. What if the enemy forces to snatch the teleportation together?" Ancient One thought for a while. There really was no way. Unless you close the portal ahead of time, or think of a way to get rid of people before leaving. But in any case, this is an imperfect technology. Then, Ancient One took Alen and Kyla to the library. Along the way, there are still many Kamar-Taj students looking at the two angels in surprise. Isn't Angel in New York? How come to Kamar-Taj? Come to the cabinet, there is no one here. Ancient One looked back at the two women who had already put the silver gold mask on the card and asked, "Why do you all wear masks when you come out?" "Because unnecessary trouble is not enough with them." Kayla explained directly. "Unless we meet with a person of sufficient size, we will take off the mask." This time, Ancient One didn't ask how many people were enough to meet. Because this is 80% apart from looking at Angel's mood. There must be standards for these various aspects. If a creature doesn't have much power but enough to make people admire, is it worth Angel to take off the mask? Worth. But a person has enough power, such as Thanos, does that still need to be said? Angel wouldn't take off the mask by himself in front of Thanos. Although his actions are quite persevering. But he is not worthy. Next, Ancient One took Kayla and Alen into the library. Here is a collection of all the magic books that Kamar-Taj can have, already made. It can be said that if you can learn it thoroughly, Avertisement, you have almost learned all the magic on earth. Except for those private magic that are not engraved in books. All the value of Kamar-Taj is here, you can watch it as you please. Talking, Ancient One stepped forward and unlocked all the locked books. So next, Alen and Kayla looked at each other. They stretched out their hands. An energy projection system appeared in front of them. At the same time, Kayla, open eye of insight. Alen, open eye of insight. For an instant, Ancient One stood beside them both. Then she was shocked to see the magic books in the entire library gush out continuous data into the system of Kayla and Alen. And Alen and Kayla were standing there. A white barrier appeared in their eyes. The sky full of data rolls out like a tsunami. At the moment, the entire interior of the library is like a palace of golden data. They seem to use their lives to show themselves vividly. Ancient One is standing there, looked blankly. If every apprentice of Kamar-Taj had this ability. A spell that is as long as using magic is not difficult at all. Before they use magic, not only to memorize, but to understand, but also to have the ability to communicate and use. But here is Angel. Is it such a simple thing? After a while, Alen and Kayla closed the Eye of Insight at the same time, and put away the energy system. Ancient One looked at the orange energy panel that just appeared in the sky and asked, "Is this magic?" "No, this is technology." Alen turned to look at Ancient One and said, "Sometimes, the difference between science and magic is not that big. Perhaps the end of science is theology, and the end of magic is also the microcosmology. We are not the research angel in the angel civilization. We are mainly responsible for travel tasks, representing the existence of the king." Finished, Kayla asked again, "Anything else, Ms. Ancient One? If not, we need to go back and report this incident." Ancient One shook his head, indicating that there is no more. Seeing this, Alen and Kayla nodded. Then he took a step back under Ancient One's suspicious eyes. Then, Alen closed her eyes slowly. She pinched a handprint on her left hand. Then the right hand began to draw circles. Ancient One's eyes widened in an instant. "You only learned it for a few seconds. Just plan to open the portal. If you really opened up. The name of my supreme magician. ZZZZ. At this time, golden sparks began to flash in the space before Alen's right hand circled. There was an incredible look in Ancient One's eyes. But then this golden spark never started to draw circles. Ancient One suddenly let out a deep breath. If this is learned in an instant, where is the name of her supreme magician? But it's not bad. Just learning magic can show the golden energy. This is already the different ability of the ability. It's already very powerful. But next, Alen's eyes closed, Lu brow furrowed. She suddenly began to output a large amount of her mental energy and biological energy. Immediately, the golden spark that can't draw a circle is actually pushed up abruptly. From jerky to average, from fair to smooth, it took a short while. The golden sparks circulated several times in the air. And the portal has officially opened. Ancient One opened his mouth in surprise. She didn't know what to say anymore. Now even if she goes out and talks, There is a creature that casts a portal within seconds after learning magic. Who believes it? This is what the Supreme Magician of Ancient One said. There will be doubts outside. Because this is incredible. What do you think of magic? AbsidFG. Say it takes a few seconds to learn it in a few seconds. What a trouble. But this is the fact. After casting the portal, Alen and Kayla waved at Ancient One. You can visit the Sky City when you have time, but you still need to report in advance. After speaking, they walked into the portal one after another. And the other end of the portal is obviously the City of the Sky. To the end, with the closing of the portal, Ancient One asked what Zhang wanted to say most, but he didn't know what to say. She looked back at the library, which seemed to have never been moved. If it weren't for seeing the unlocked book, she even wondered if she had a fantasy. But Ancient One remembered what he remembered correctly. Did Alen and Kayla say that they are at least fighting angel? Not a research angel. This. The screen turned back to Alen's side. Patter, patter, after 2 metal boots fell to the ground. Alen and Kayla walked towards the palace step by step as companions. Walking on the road, Alen was tired and hit hatch. Kayla turned her head and saw. Alen, did you just use too much energy to use the portal? Alen nodded. The first time I used it was rather jerky. I used energy and belief to forcefully open the space and time. But if I use it a second time, I can release my spirit for the second time. That's fine. Kayla waved her hand quickly. If you fall asleep in the palace of the king, maybe the king will punish me. Alen caught her eye when she heard it. She immediately looked at Kayla, angrily, and said, Okay Kayla. I have worked so hard to show my strength for the king and civilization. When you thought about whether you would be punished by the king. Look at me not scratching you. All of a sudden. On this avenue leading to the palace of the king. The 2 angels were chasing and fighting. Kayla was chased to the palace of the king along the way, she breathed out. Okay Alen, I was wrong, don't scratch, we are going to see the king. After hearing Kayla's words, Alen suddenly stopped making trouble. They stood there tidying up their clothes. Then look at each other's hair for any mess. But the next moment, a voice rang from their minds. Come to my courtyard, I am not in the palace. Closing curly bracket. Yes, X2. Wait until the 2 women have listened to the reply. Alen suddenly remembered. Then did the king know about our fight just now? Does the king think I'm naive? Kira couldn't help but laugh when she looked at Alen's current state. Alen, you were so prestigious outside just now, why are you like a little girl now? Alen was teased by Kayla, and patted her on the shoulder. Don't you look like a little girl in front of the king? I think you are also honest. Kayla covered her lips and smiled. But I admit it, you still don't admit it. When Alen heard it, she was going to scratch Kayla again. Kayla said quickly after seeing it, it's alright, it's almost time, let's go to see the king quickly. After Kayla's reminder, Alen let her go to Luo Hua's courtyard with her. Waded into the courtyard, Luo Hua let them sit down. Alen and Kayla immediately transmitted the collected data to Luo Hua, the host at the same time. Wait until the acceptance is complete. Luo Hua packs up these magic books, and then creates a magic auction entry in the system. Then all angels can go to see magic. However, this is just the most basic. Then Luo Hua secretly communicated with her angel. Hexi, Kesha, and Liangbing all come here, I will assign the research direction of magic and technology. After Luo Hua's communication, Hexi, Kesha, and Liangbing arrived here in a while. Luo Hua looked at them. Waved his hand to open the interface of the Rubik's Cube system to them. I don't need to say more about the types of magic, because it is not easy to classify, and some of them are even vague. But on the other hand, there are some better defined magics. In front of the 5 angels, Luo Hua will sort out the useful ones in a short while. Portal, mirror space, Wanhua mirror, infinite space, etc., are all space-time magic. So these are mainly for Liangbing to analyze. Good. Liangbing nodded. This is what he is also serious about. Luo Hua then said, air knives, energy explosions, internal pressure shocks, space cutting, and magical energy weapons are all classified as offensive. So these are mainly for Kesha to analyze. Yes, Kesha nodded. Then, Luo Hua looked at Hexi again and said, illusions, soul astral, invisibility, astral projection, protective shields and other magics are given to Hexi. Hexi, your magic research may be more complicated and diversified. So the Sky City project can be put aside, it's almost enough now. Yes, Hexi nodded. Finally, Luo Hua looked at Kyla and Alen over there. Obviously, Alen nodded and nodded a little sleepily at the moment. So Luo Hua said, you can find the rest of the magic you are interested in and study it. At that time, apply the analyzed magic to the technology and upload it to any of them to check it. Yes, seeing Alen's unstoppable eyelids, Luo Hua smiled and said, okay, Alen, thanks for your hard work. You and Kyla can go back to rest first. I wish you a good dream. Alen suddenly felt a little confused. Kayla's head was sober and pulled Alen's sleeve to salute Luo Hua and then took the lead and walked out. Alen reacted and hurriedly bowed to Luo Hua before walking out. Wait until Alen and Kayla go to rest. Liangbing was sitting outside, so she stood up and poured tea for everyone. Then he took out the snacks from the dark plane and put them on the table. Luo Hua reached out and took one and put it in his mouth. But as he ate, he laughed. Are we counting on carrying Alen and Kayla to eat delicious food? Suddenly, both Kesha and Hexi couldn't help laughing. Liangbing said, it's okay, I'll give them some too when the time comes. Next, Luo Hua was drinking tea and eating snacks, leaning on the cushions and looking at the three women next to her. By the way, I forgot to tell you. You guys have read the information about infinite gems. Think of the various infinite gems that Luo Hua passed to them. The three women nodded at the same time. Then if I tell you, there will be 3 infinite gems on the earth at the same time in a while. Moreover, there is one that is also readily available on the earth, that is to say there are 4. Exclamation mark exclamation mark exclamation mark. Suddenly, Hexi, Kesha, and Liangbing opened their eyes wide. Liangbing couldn't help being surprised, for they just learned about infinite gems. At the beginning of the universe, a total of 6 lessons of infinite gems broke out. 2 fierce are space, time, reality, power, mind, and soul. The corresponding colors are also blue, green, red, purple, yellow, and orange. And the huge ability corresponding to each gem will not be elaborated. They have seen it on Luo Hua's profile just now. Hexi asked curiously on Luo Hua's right, which 4? Space, mind, time, reality. Until Luo Hua finishes talking about these 4 gems. Kesha finally couldn't help asking, where are they all? For nothing else, just because these gems felt too strong after they saw them. If their king angel gets it, then angel civilization will become extremely powerful overnight. The space gem is in the hands of that marinated egg. Mind gem still needs to wait for someone who is magnificent to bring it over. The time gem is actually on Ancient One, but she still wants to pass it to Steve Strange. And reality gem, after a while, its space node will be refreshed in an abandoned building on Earth. After listening to Luo Hua's explanation, Liangbing finally reacted. It turns out that Ancient One said today that the king's future cannot be seen because of this. She has the time gem and can see the future, but after Wong gets the space gem, Ancient One can't see it anymore. In other words, Wong will get the space gem soon. Yes, Luo Hua nodded. Space gem he is bound to win. Then he will also get the reality gem and the spirit gem. And time gem, although Luo Hua doesn't need this for the time being. But after a while, maybe 1 to 2 years, maybe several years. At that time, if Ancient One and Steve Strange, that is, Doctor Strange, they will not take the initiative to send them. Then don't blame him, the King of Angel, for his cruel heart. Not needing it now does not mean that it will not be needed in the future. Because Luo Hua wants all the gems. Don't leave one. At this time, after thinking about it for a long time, Kesha asked, with Space Gem, can supercomputer be built? Kesha thinks very comprehensively. Space Gem is the same as Luo Hua said last time. There is space in space, and energy and energy. This is an excellent place to build a treasure trove of knowledge. Yes, Luo Hua nodded directly. So next I will build a framework for the treasure house of knowledge. Then after obtaining the Space Gem, our treasure trove of knowledge can be officially launched. This time, The three daughters of Kesha began to imagine how terrible the amount of calculations at that time was. If it is said that the last second generation upgrade to the third generation is only the upgrade of the computer to the server, then the 3 generations of dark matter computers, or if the servers are upgraded to supercomputers, then the upgrade to build a treasure trove of knowledge this time is just that. Unimaginable. It is far more terrifying than countless servers being upgraded to supercomputers. To know the treasure house of knowledge is full of firepower and calculations can be calculated into the future. Right, that's right, calculate the future. Although the calculation choice is single, it is equivalent to a pseudo-time gem. However, the usage of knowledge treasure is much more powerful than time gem. At that time, Angel's combat power will have to be doubled how many times? Liang Bing heard that Luo Hua's space gem was ready to do this. She asked with interest inside, what about mind gem? Now that space gem has a plan. She couldn't have her own king without plans for other gems. That is impossible. Even Hexi nodded slightly beside him. The people she knows are well prepared and never do anything unprepared. So, Luo Hua nodded. The ability of mind gem can strengthen the spirit. The first thing I plan to get after I get it is to strengthen all of you. Next, I am also going to use mind gem to build a spiritual network that can cover the universe in the future. If you don't want the flesh, you can even survive there, in another way of life. Exclamation mark. At this moment, the 3 women opened their eyes again. Because they know what it means. As long as Luo Hua does not die, they can live in another state even if they fall. And this is just the most basic ability. Luo Hua then added, if all angel spiritual networks are linked together, then our spirit is so strong that it is unimaginable. We will be one in any sense, no one can shake it. This time, when Luo Hua said this sentence, Hexi shook his hand while drinking the tea, and almost overturned the teacup. Kesha's eyes were in a trance, but she was forcing herself to change back. Only Liang Bing, the cheeky man, gave a wink in turn. Know that my last sentence is more ambiguous. Luo Hua doesn't matter anymore, it's her own angel anyway. Isn't it fun to tease? After a smile, Luo Hua continued. So the spiritual gems are also very helpful to us when they are held in their hands. If we don't make a mistake, our spiritual power will be close to the peak of the universe. But it's not clear if it is number 1, because there are other powerful creatures. For example, Dormammu, its spiritual power is 1 dimension and all believers. Dormammu is indeed at the top level, but it is also very restrictive. Invading other dimensions first requires summoning or offering sacrifices. And even this can't come completely. It can only be occupied by duplication or believers and then fully invaded. But, Luo Hua didn't guess wrong. Those gods with all sorts of abilities must have powerful spiritual energy. For example, Igo, he is Xingju's father and a member of the celestial group. His ability is to corrode and encroach on the planet after the power of controlling the mind becomes manifest. In Guardians of Galaxy, he almost succeeded in occupying the Earth. But Xingju destroyed him. However, Luo Hua's plan is that in the future angel civilization will capture various groups of gods to study their abilities. Then analyze their ability and apply it to yourself. So what is it called? This is called Tianjin Group Hunting Plan. Next, Hexi was relieved. She looked at Luo Hua's handsome cheeks again and curiously said, isn't there a reality gem in the end? Wong, what do you plan to do with him? Its energy seems a bit dreamy. Dream? No, it's not dreamy at all. Reality gem's ability can be said to be one of Luo Hua's biggest plans. So first, Luo Hua looked at Liangbing, Kesha, and Hexi and asked, you also understand the ability of reality gem? Then I ask you, if you get the reality gem, how would you use it? After everyone was silent for a while, Kesha first said, first of all, we can't create technology. We certainly don't understand it, and it's difficult to do it. Yes, but, Luo Hua reminded, reality gem cannot create an existence that does not understand. And compared to creation, change is its easiest means. If reality gem can create unintelligible technology, then it is almost catching up with Luo Hua's system. Later, Hexi and Liang Bing are still thinking. When there is no reality gem, you think you can create anything. But if you have reality gem, you start to think about how to maximize the value. But they think about it. Nor is there a particularly big idea to help now. Watching them think hard, Luo Hua smiled and took a cup of tea from the table and put it in front of her lips. Exclamation mark, exclamation mark, exclamation mark. This time, it was like a moment of silence. Liang Bing, Kesha, and Hexi opened their eyes wide. Yes, what is more appropriate than using reality gem to build an engine? What could be more appropriate than transforming reality, or even creating an engine of reality? As long as this engine can be developed, Angel's combat power has soared. And it still soars to the kind of shadowless roar. For an instant, the three of them breathed out slowly. Suddenly, the whole area was filled with fragrance. Liang Bing almost couldn't turn his head this time and murmured, that space gem creates a treasure trove of knowledge, mind gem creates a spiritual network, and reality gem creates a virtual engine. It really exploded this time. Hexi, Kesha, and Liang Bing couldn't imagine how powerful Angel was at that time. This cannot be 1 + 1 + 1 = 3. This is called 1 + 1 + 1 = infinity, infinite. Luo Hua looked around for a week. The three girls at the moment all opened their little cherry mouths. Through rosy lips, Luo Hua can still see the little fragrant tongue inside. Reached out and picked up a snack from the table, then stuffed it into Kesha's mouth. Then take another piece and feed it to Hexi repeatedly. Finally, Liang Bing reacted and made a gesture of begging for feeding. Luo Hua helplessly stretched out his hand to feed her. Then I ate a piece of tea myself, eating food that Luo Hua personally fed. They are happy and excited. Because this is really strengthening too much. At that time, every angel will stand alone in the existence of a civilization. As for why it is called a virtual engine, this is also a unified name. Anyway, Angel can change the name clearly for her own engine. But then again, this is also literal. An engine built through reality gem technology. It at least has the ability to transform and create reality. In other words, every angel after the angel civilization will have an existence that escapes all the laws of conservation. To know, almost all civilizations in the universe now rely on conservation laws to develop technology. But afterwards, Angel won't use it directly. And the virtual engine is different from the angel civilization in Luo Hua's memory. The creation understood there is created only by the combination of the void engine and the anti-void engine. In other words, 1 and 0 were needed to create at that time. And you need to understand to create. But the virtual engine after Luo Hua is not at all. If you insist on giving an example, every angel after angel civilization is a god who speaks according to the law. What you think is what you want. This is an exaggeration. But it's not wrong at all. Next, after eating the things Luo Hua feeds are still unfinished. Kesha took a sip of tea from the table. Wong, I already have the idea of magically transforming the vibranium long sword. Oh, so fast. How long has this been? Luo Hua was a little interested. How to say it? Kesha waved in the air and began to project. Then the air began to show the analysis of the golden energy of those magic weapons. Then Kesha attached those energy to the vibranium longsword. Finally, angel spiritual energy and biological energy are used for blessing. For a moment, the golden energy shone like the sun. This golden energy is attached to the long sword. Then followed Angel with a vigorous wave. A dazzling golden arc was instantly cut out. After the simulation, Kesha said, the effect of the final attack is still unclear for the time being. I haven't researched it clearly yet. But it should be either cutting or bombing. In other words, in this way, Angel can have a real long-range attack. Not bad, not bad. Luo Hua said twice in a row that it was good. If this is my release, at least an attack that destroys most of the city can be achieved. At a glance, this golden energy is the combination of all Angel's energy. In other words, if Luo Hua came to release, it would be a bit scary. Angel's group attack ability is not strong in the first place. Put another way, Angel mainly kills ability in a single body. Moreover, the group does not cause much harm to Angel, so there is no main research and development. But if Luo Hua came to show it, he can do it. In the future, Angel can do it with technology. After all, some annoying choppy and ants are still annoying if they don't clean up. Then what do we call it? Kesha asked. Luo Hua thought for a while. If it's cutting, it's called flame cutting. If it's bombing, it's called flame bombing. Kesha nodded. Okay. Liang Bing saw that Kesha was said by Luo Hua and it was good. At the moment she must be very satisfied with Wong. Liang Bing thought about it for a while, and must go back and find it out again. Sudden, she has a thought. Liang Bing stood up fiercely. Then he saluted Luo Hua and said, Wong, I also have an idea. I will go back and study first, and I will come in a few days. Looking at the sudden excitement of the cold ice, Luo Hua nodded and smiled. Okay, go ahead and look forward to your results. Liang Bing screamed directly, and quickly walked back. Kesha frowned as she watched from the side. This cold ice is not big or small in front of the king. Isn't that interesting? Luo Hua said directly and differently. Sometimes it's not good to be too serious or too rigorous, since our lives are so long. Then the most important thing is to be together happily and easily. You are all my darlings, which one I don't feel bad about. Huh. Comma exclamation mark comma exclamation mark comma exclamation mark. All of a sudden, Liang Bing just said to leave the door with a whimper. Then a strand of long black hair flung out a little from the door. The last figure tipped away quickly. This guy is still eavesdropping. It turns out that when Kesha was talking about Liangbing, she was waiting to eavesdrop on Luo Hua's reaction. But she did not expect to overhear such an emotional answer. This time, Luo Hua looked at the golden angel and the silver-haired angel beside him. The moment they met Luo Hua, they cast their eyes in a panic. Don't dare to look at Luo Hua. Seeing this, Luo Hua smiled. He knowingly asked and teased. Diaresis, what's wrong with this, am I wrong? Quote. Suddenly, Kesha also pretended to be calm and sipped the tea. Hexi did the same. It's just that Hexi's seems to be whiter, and her cheeks are already blushing. And Kesha seemed okay though. But as long as that pair of Luo Hua looked at her, she would betray her with a flash of eyes. Is this the weakness of Kesha? Ha 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 ha. Finally, I couldn't help but laugh out loud. It was the first time Hexi and Kesha heard Luo Hua's heroic and charming laugh. Luo Hua stood up. He stretched out his left and right hands and shaved the cheeks of Kesha on the left and Hexi on the right at the same time. Then rubbed their hair again. Wait until everything is satisfied. Luo Hua walked towards his bedroom. I'll go back and lie down for a while, you can sit as long as you want. Wait until Luo Hua enters the house. Hexi glanced at Kesha. Kesha also glanced at Hexi while feeling bright. The two of them looked at each other. After a while, they all laughed. The two went to Zongjin to get together. Hexi made tea for Kesha and herself. Kesha brought the snacks to the two of them. The two are like sisters who haven't seen each other for many years. Everything is so natural, and definitely more pleasing to the eye than Liangbing and Kesha together. Oh, Kesha sighed. If Liangbing is with me, she will trouble me. Isn't that normal to compare with my sister in everything? Hexi answered and pushed the brewed tea to Kesha. It's more than a comparison. Kesha picked up the teacup, looked at the tea faintly inside and said, she has more thoughts, who knows what she is thinking about tomorrow. Hexi didn't care when he heard it. Except that Liangbing is not easy to guess, everything else is mediocre. So she picked up the snacks on the table and took a bite. No matter how much her heart is, the king will be able to pinch her to death. Furthermore, Liangbing is not as good as a pet fox in front of the king. Do you think she is a fox too? Kesha asked when she looked up. Hexi nodded. Kesha nodded in agreement, but the next moment, Kesha suddenly looked up at Hexi and asked curiously, then what do you think I am? Hexi thought for a while. If I say, you are not allowed to scratch me. Okay, Kesha agreed. Man, Hexi replied immediately. Kesha, take a deep breath. Kesha looked at Hexi who was smiling. Suddenly replied unceremoniously, old fairy. That's not bad hemp. Hexi drank tea disapprovingly. At least prettier than you. Kesha, my vibranium sword. At the same time, in a certain space in the universe, a man wearing a green long cloak and two horns on top of his head is almost like a reindeer talking to another ugly face. The cosmic magic has been awakening. It's in a small space, and it's also in the human world. Humans try to control it, master it, and use it. Unfortunately, very few people can use Tesseract's secrets. Speaker. It was an alien with an ugly face, gray wrinkled skin and no mouth. At the moment, it was Loki who fell into Bifrost not long ago to talk to him. Loki is wearing Asgard's green cloak, with 2 long horns on top of his head. He looked at the leader of the Kateric civilization in front of him. Earth, there is also an angel civilization sheltering. Although there are only a few angels, they are very strong. Angel, the leader of Kateri didn't understand what kind of creature Angel was. But he continued to ask, what strength? Very strong, Loki recalled. If you compare the combat power of Asgard soldiers, take 1 enemy to 1,000. Cut, the leader of Zeteri gave a disdain. We have endless soldiers, what a few angels who are 1 enemy 1,000. Even if they are better, I can kill them directly. Zeta Swiss soldiers are endless. Loki thought for a moment in a daze. It seems to be too. He was just a destroyer and was demolished. If tens of thousands of Kitar army invaded, isn't that exhausting them too? Pity. This is the consequence of not knowing the strength of the opponent. Since the 2nd generation of Angel, the human sea tactics have been officially declared useless. In the 3rd generation, sending out an angel can turn the tide of an entire civilization. So when the time comes, the expressions of Kitarui and Loki will be very good-looking. At this time, the leader of the Zeteric civilization gave a scepter to Loki. This is a weapon given to you by our leader. If you can occupy the earth, this scepter can be gifted to you. And it's not just this scepter, that planet can also belong to you. We only need Tesseract, do you know that? Loki nodded. Reached out and took the scepter. When will we invade? The leader of Kitari slowly left. But he left a word before leaving. Wait for me to sort out the army. It is almost a week later. Loki will be teleported directly to Tesseract. ... Next, it was late at night before Loki was about to send Tesseract. At the moment, it was already around 3 in the morning. The whole sky city is quiet. Only the little stars of the whole city illuminate every corner. If you look at the city of the sky from a higher sky, at the moment, it is like a fairyland. The scattered fluorescence is dotted with. Let the night in the city of the sky no longer be alone. At the moment Luo Hua sat on the big bed in the bedroom. He leaned on the cushion behind him. But my hand is constantly writing and drawing in the air. If Kesha sees it now, she will know that Luo Hua is building a framework for a treasure trove of knowledge. Sudden, there was a signal on Luo Hua's system. That's Liangbing's communication application. If Luo Hua sleeps, this signal will naturally not be seen. But at this time he didn't sleep either. So Luo Hua is also connected. Liangbing. Luo Hua, you haven't slept yet. Closing curly bracket. Luo Hua. Nonsense, who picked up your communication when I slept? Closing curly bracket. Liangbing. Then I will go to you now, the new wormhole technology has been researched. Closing curly bracket. Now, Luo Hua sat on the bed, looking at the fluorescent courtyard outside the balcony. It's 3 o'clock. It's not anxious to say tomorrow. But it hasn't waited for Luo Hua to say it. Liangbing sent another message. Liangbing. Wong, you are not afraid that we are alone in the dead of night, right? Closing curly bracket. Listening to Liangbing speaking in this slightly ambiguous tone, Luo Hua smiled contemptuously, oh. Then replied. Luo Hua, if you use gifted scholars and beautiful ladies, I think it is better than what you said. Come on, bring some food. Closing curly bracket. Liangbing. Yes, I'm ready to eat more. Closing curly bracket. Are you ready to eat more? Heard this sentence. Luo Hua had to wonder if Liangbing specifically picked this point. Otherwise, why are they all prepared? Now that it's prepared, isn't that intentional? Luo Hua smiled helplessly. If you dare to mess around, then clean her up. After a while, with pattering, fast and small footsteps sounded. After a while, Liangbing entered Luo Hua's yard with a bunch of snacks. Seeing no one in the yard, she hurriedly ran into the bedroom happily. Bang bang. Liangbing didn't knock on the door because he was holding the snacks. In desperation, she directly banged Luo Hua's bedroom door twice with her forehead. But who knew that these fans actually smashed into a gap? Cool ice and happy. Could this be the door the king left for himself? But next, come in, I don't close the door. Okay, I think too much. Holding the snacks, squeezed the door and walked in. Then he hooked his feet and closed the door. Liang Bing walked in. When she saw Luo Hua sitting on the bed leaning on the cushions, she immediately moved from the dark plane to Pengtang. With a sound, she put down a small table beside Luo Hua's bed. Then she quickly put the snacks on. I sat on Luo Hua's bed again. Luo Hua, he was just about to get out of bed and go to the lounge area. As a result, Liang Bing's quick operation was obviously because he didn't want to get out of bed. Then she can sit on her bed. Looking at Liang Bing sitting at his feet, Luo Hua said helplessly, "Can't your snacks be thrown into the dark plane? Why do you want to hug your head and hit the door all the way?" Hee. Liang Bing dealt with the chaotic Liu Hai with embarrassment. Go in a hurry, go in a hurry. I heard Liang Bing say so. Luo Hua could imagine Liang Bing after he heard that he let her come. She pushed the snacks in her arms before running here. Silly, just no to eat. Luo Hua stretched out his hand. Liang Bing immediately handed over a packet of snacks to Luo Hua. Take it apart and take it apart. Luo Hua asked while eating, what has the wormhole technology broken through? Show it to me. When Liang Bing heard it, he was overjoyed. She stood up quickly. Then he walked quickly to Luo Hua's waist and sat down. In other words, Liang Bing at the moment is sitting on Luo Hua's right-hand side. But with Liang Bing, as if only doing business, projected the technical energy. At the moment Luo Hua saw it. A golden portal uses energy to simulate the appearance of opening. Then it shows that the angel wings after the previous upgrade have the ability pulled by the wormhole. Finally they integrate together. Then Luo Hua saw it. An angel who looked down on his face was simulated flying in the air by energy. She is only about 15 centimeters tall, just like a figure. But next, her wings twinkled with golden light. Then the figure angel teleported from here to the other side. See this. Liang Bing's demonstration is over. Luo Hua watched while eating snacks. After swallowing the food, he said with admiration, "Yes, you should have attached the magic of the portal to the wings of angel." Specific details, I guess you imprinted the magic of the portal on the technology of angel wings. Then angel, as long as she outputs energy, can control her wings to instantly launch a wormhole for teleportation. So as long as it is trained, this technique is perfect. Liang Bing heard Luo Hua's analysis. His eyes widened directly. She didn't even show the technology content to Luo Hua. Luo Hua has analyzed it. But I heard Luo Hua said that the technology is perfect. Liang Bing immediately became excited and asked for credit. I'm great. Then Angel will be able to travel the universe at will in the future. If you are strong, you can travel freely without the help of any equipment. Yes, Luo Hua nodded. With this equipment, what more time and space transition flight device? Each angel can carry things to the dark plane to teleport directly. And all they need to consider is enough energy. But if it is not enough, Luo Hua does not have hemp here. Unless you are too exhausted, you can even teleport forever. Looking at Liang Bing's little head with his head up, Luo Hua reached out and rubbed it. Liang Bing was rubbed and said, "Then I will transmit the details to you." After a while, wait for Luo Hua to receive the technology. You wait a while, I will load the technology first. Ding. Angel civilization technology set successfully. Angel's wings. Wormhole right pointing arrow angel's wings, time and space. Wings of time and space. Wings of time and space with unlimited potential. Not only does it fly extremely fast, but it also engraves the magic data of the portal, which can be as small as displacement and as large as the direct teleport of the galaxy. Ps. It is an important step for angel civilization to take the universe as its homeland. With it, distance is no longer an important issue that plagues the development of civilization. After setting is complete, load this technology for all angels. Closing curly bracket. Loading completed. After all these things are done, Luo Hua opened his eyes again and saw the cold ice on his face. Okay, you can try it. That's not a hurry. Liang Bing, who knew that he would have to leave the bedroom if he wanted to try, said suddenly, "It's okay for the experiment during the day, and I'm not in a hurry now. Don't worry, you still come to me in the middle of the night." Luo Hua directly grabbed Liang Bing's cheeks with his hands. "When I came, I said I was anxious in the middle of the night. When you try, you don't say anything in a hurry. Can you imagine someone who just got the artifact but didn't want to try its power but chose to sleep first? This is Liangbing, really ruthless. Wooloo, wooloo, wooloo. Luo Hua grabbed Liangbing and made meaningless grunts. Wait until Luo Hua has had enough. Liangbing rubbed his cheeks in anticipation. Then can I have the same small rewards as last time? After thinking about it, the technology developed by Liangbing this time is indeed very useful. And they are all considered milestones of angel civilization. So Luo Hua nodded in agreement. Whatever, I can agree with you as long as it's not too much. How can it be? Small rewards, small rewards. Liangbing suddenly stood up happily. Then a little jumper jumped to the left of Luo Hua's bed. She lifted the delicate thin blanket covering Luo Hua's legs. Then he got in at once. With some squirming of Liangbing. Luo Hua leaned on the cushion behind him. Then he turned his head and looked at Liangbing, who was also leaning on the cushion and putting his shoulders on his shoulders. At the moment Liangbing only wore a normal dress pajamas. Not to mention that this dress is just a drop-shoulder dress. It is black as a whole, which corresponds to the color of Liangbing's hair. But at the same time, the simple but exquisite pattern on it makes it a bit more mysterious. So, at the moment Liangbing's entire arm, the whole arm is cold. But the smooth touch like a jade skin. Look down through the sling again. Forehead. Liangbing should be regarded as the biggest among Angel 3 Kings. The definitely mentioned here is not age. But now it's just a visual inspection. In fact, we still have to wait until we see the truth. Luo Hua turned to look at Liangbing. I think this reward is too much. Not too much. Excessive. Not too much. It feels that Luo Hua doesn't want to let herself stay. Liangbing immediately shrank into the thin blanket. After a while, Luo Hua felt like holding her waist with her hands. The other pair of legs clamped his left leg. ... Where did you learn the twisting technique? Not professional. But looking at Liangbing, who was already reluctant to let go. Roar. Luo Hua sighed and let her go. Anyway, the one who is comfortable is also myself. Wait until the daylight hours, and then leave Liangbing. For the high value of your research this time, I will go by myself at dawn. Luo Hua finished. The bulge under the bed was obviously Liangbing's head nodded. Take out a book from the dark plane. Luo Hua doesn't build a framework for knowledge treasury anymore. Liangbing kept himself in the bed like this. Is there any thought to study that thing? Looking at the book. Sip tea, eat snacks and pass the time. As Luo Hua kept crashing, the sound of turning pages sounded. When he turned page 32, the guy who had been quiet for a long time in the bed was starting to be dishonest again. Remove the book. Withdraw his hand. There is no hesitation. Shook it sharply. Boom. Luo Hua took the time to hit the quilt with his hands and beat Liangbing's dishonest hands off. But it didn't take long. She stretched her hand down. Hiss. Luo Hua took a deep breath. He threw the book directly into the dark plane. Then suddenly lifted the thin blanket. Liangbing, I suddenly feel that you owe you to clean up. The cold ice duck sat up from the bed with a blank face. Then she said nothing. Facing Luo Hua's dead duck, he raised his pretty face stiffly. Say nothing. Good. Luo Hua looked at Liangbing's pretty face. Temporarily cancel Liangbing's permission to use all ability. Angel Cold Ice, technology ability, none. For an instant, Liangbing suddenly found that he had become an ordinary person. Then she saw Luo Hua moving his wrist and walking over. Both hands and wrists were grasped. Then his legs were also pressed. Long black hair was scattered across the bed. Looking at Luo Hua's staring eyes. Liangbing at the moment, only dodge is left. But Luo Hua didn't care about this, and just knocked on it. After a few minutes, Liangbing suffocated his face and gasped with red lips, let me take a breath. Restore Liangbing's permission to use all ability. Recovered. Suddenly, Liangbing's breathless look immediately recovered. But will Luo Hua let her go? Don't even think about it. But at this time, the brilliance of the newborn sun shines through the balcony. There were also 2 pattering footsteps outside the courtyard. Obviously this is the footsteps of Kesha and Hexi. It is morning now. Looking back, Luo Hua stared fiercely as if it were cold ice. Then loosen and pinch her wrist. However, Luo Hua has clearly recovered her technological ability. But now Liang Bing is still panting and his face is ruddy. Bang, bang, Hexi knocked on the door. Liang Bing picked up the suspender dress on the bed. Wings of time and space, teleport. A golden light flashed. Suddenly, Liang Bing disappeared in Luo Hua's large bedroom for an instant. Only the abandoned table, snacks, and the thin blanket that had been lifted proved her existence. Waved his hand to collect the table snacks into the dark plane. Luo Hua looked at the magic of the system. One of them is automatic sorting. After reading it again, Luo Hua waved one hand. The whole bedroom instantly became like no one had lived in. Why do you feel a little guilty of seeing? Bang, bang. At this time, Hexi knocked on the door again. If Luo Hua didn't agree, they would not strike a third time and chose to leave. Come in, Luo Hua finished. He also put on his daily gown and walked out. Sitting on the pavilion, Hexi was making tea. Kesha asked on the side, Wong, that technology at 4 o'clock in the morning today. You said that technology. Luo Hua took the teacup handed by Hexi and explained directly. That's Liangbing hurriedly rushing over to Huan Roar, the technology she just developed. I defined it as the wing of time and space. With it, it can teleport at will. Obviously, what Hexi and Kesha care about is not technology. It's that the space-time technology that Liangbing is good at will actually be developed in the middle of the night. So they came together early in the morning just after dawn. But looking at Wong so definitely, Liangbing should have been driven away because of good technology transmission. Thought of this, Kesha and Hexi looked at each other without leaving a trace. All are relieved. They were afraid that Liang Binglai would spend the night here. Next, Kesha also said, Wong, I have completed the magic technology that I said that day. Oh, Luo Hua turned to look at Kesha. What about the final effect? The last suspense left on that day is the golden energy slash is cutting or bombing. It's okay, Kesha suddenly said an answer that no one had expected. At the same time she waved her hand and began to project energy. Same as before, the golden magical energy that was originally empty-handed is attached to Angel's vibranium longsword weapon. Then again through the output of energy to complete a more powerful attack. But in the end, what Kesha demonstrates is that you can cut as you like. If you want to explode, explode. So to the end. In other words, when using cutting, it is called flame cutting. When bombing is used, it is called flame bombing. After listening, Kesha nodded and said that was indeed the case. Then this is a surprise. Luo Hua smiled and looked at Kesha. We have a multifunctional attack method, which is definitely better. Cut if you want. Fry it if you want. There is nothing better than this. Although Kesha nodded, she was obviously not so happy. Can only say, so. Looking at Kesha who was not happy. Luo Hua reached out and squeezed Kesha's solemn and majestic cheek. For an instant, Hexi, who was next to him, was amused. The sense of majesty and solemnity that Kesha worked hard to possess was instantly pinched by Luo Hua's entire face. If this is usual, who dares pinch Kesha's face? Even Hexi didn't dare to pinch. The result is Luo Hua here. A squeezed cheek directly squeezed the queen into a pouting mouth. There is no one here. He laughed out loud. Kesha also pursed her lips and smiled helplessly. Then she sighed leisurely and said, this is just the most basic attack method, not really useful at all. The wings of time and space developed by Liangbing is one of our most important. And when you have a virtual engine in the future, this kind of attack is even more useless. Original. Kesha was unhappy because the things she developed would soon be eliminated. The technology developed by Liangbing is of great significance to Angel. So this creates a big gap. This is not the cause of jealousy. This is why Kesha feels she can't help. Although Luo Hua said diversity, practicality and so on. But this is the most basic thing. After understanding why Kesha was unhappy, Luo Hua laughed. Then in Kesha's puzzled eyes, Luo Hua waved his hand. An angel figure model appeared. Because of some kind of problem, Luo Hua is not good at taking women, so she can only model with her own data. But fortunately, this model only has outlines drawn by lines. So the problem is not too big. Kiki. Luo Hua coughed slightly. He brought back the minds of Kesha and Hexi, who had been attracted instantly. This is my body model. What I want to say next is very important. And this requires Hexi and Kesha to be jointly responsible for research. Two women listened to it. This must be a very challenging task. Suddenly all concentrated and waited for Luo Hua to speak. Next, Luo Hua looked at the two women who were listening carefully and continued, I ask you, do we need Roar to suck now? Yes. X2, Hexi and Kesha directly replied. Don't think about it, they definitely want Roar to suck now. And just now, Liangbing almost couldn't breathe. Cough 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 cough. It's crooked. Do you still need to avoid the radiation of gamma ray bursts? Yes, Kesha and Hexi replied again without hesitation. Ordinary gamma rays or nuclear bomb radiation can now cause no harm to Angel. But the radiation intensity of the gamma ray burst can directly destroy Angel's genes. The Angel shot by it will directly collapse to the point of turning into ashes. Do you still need to rest? Yes, still the same, Kesha and Hexi replied immediately. Even if they are the third generation Angel. But without rest, sooner or later, the spirit will run out. This is something that energy cannot be supplemented. Must go through rest, although Angel can recover in a sober state. But this is still a break. Finally, Luo Hua looked at Kesha and Hexi's eyes seriously. So, what I want to tell you next is the idea of divine body technology. God body. Kesha and Hexi repeated these two words. Luo Hua nodded. Continue to start saying. The God body, as the name implies, is to become a true God. In my understanding, those who need Roar to suck, have deadly parts, need to eat, etc. are not gods. Although we don't need to eat, we still need Roar to suck and we need to rest. And the brain and heart are still in the classification of deadly parts. Kesha and Hexi thought for a while. If so, that is to say, only when you really get rid of the mortal level can you be considered a divine body. There is no need for Roar to suck, no rest, no fatal parts, no things that can easily hurt oneself. But wait until Kesha and Hexi have just planned. Luo Hua nodded and said, this is the most basic condition of the divine body. Kesha, Hexi, the most basic. X2, yes, the most basic. Luo Hua looked at the two women definitely and inexplicably. This is just the basic condition for a generation of divine bodies. How could the second, third, or even fourth generation God body be able to have this ability? Strictly speaking, the first, second, and third generation divine bodies are all basic divine bodies. Only after reaching the fourth generation of the God body will there be a special ability. Kesha and Hexi looked at each other slowly. This project does not seem to be generally large. Then, what's the difference between them? As Hexi slowly asked questions, Luo Hua gave her a brief introduction. The second and third generations are nothing more than adding a little more calculation, ability and physical fitness, which is nothing to say. But by the fourth generation, there is a strong diversity. There is an invincible body in the 4 generations, the highest being strong enough to carry a supernova. There is something comparable to an individual supercomputing. A person is a small celestial computer. Or there is a sacred body. In the case of strong defense, it also has a strong calculation ability. But it's not the most important thing. The power of the sacred body is that it backs up every atom of a living thing. Unless you can destroy all the atoms, as long as the energy is sufficient, the target can be resurrected by energy absorbing. Definitely, the energy needed will be huge. After listening to Luo Hua's brief introduction, Kesha and Hexi couldn't recover for a long time. Now they just think about it in the direction Luo Hua said, and they think it's huge. This really needs to start to study. Enough for them to study for a long time. Seeing how they are thinking, Luo Hua smiled again and said, it's okay, I will study the main genetic engineering, and then you can help me modify it. Our ultimate divine body is to develop towards the function of the divine body. So try to be as comprehensive as possible. Kesha and Hexi nodded. Means that I know. ... Time came to night. Liangbing also came to Luo Hua's courtyard at this time. This time she was no longer in a suspender pajamas, but in a black patterned gown. But it's still the skirt, but it's a bit longer than it was in the early hours of this morning. She came and sat down next to Hexi. Take out some snacks and food as usual. Luo Hua reached out and took some. Then suddenly smiled. I think Liangbing is my breeder. All of a sudden, Luo Hua's words made all three of them laugh. But the next moment, the three of them looked in one direction at the same time. Fluctuation time and space detection detected time and space fluctuations. Luo Hua calmly drank tea. At this time and space can fluctuate and jump. Only Loki came. After a while, patter, patter. 2 rapid footsteps came from outside Luo Hua's courtyard. Then Alen and Kayla arrived here. Once in the door. After they saluted, they asked immediately, Wong, do you need to be dispatched? Luo Hua drank the tea and shook his head gently. Then motioned them to sit down. Alen, use the eye of detective to simulate the scene energy at the scene. Yes. Alen and Kayla walked to the edge of the pavilion and sat down. Then Alen opened the eye of insight. At the same time, waving a hand on the table of the pavilion showed a sand table simulated by energy. On the energy sand table, all characters and things are scaled down 10 to 1. In other words, at the moment, Loki, who was standing in the universe magic research base, was only 10 centimeters high on the sand table in Alen. The same Black Fury, Hawkeye and others are only 10 centimeters high. Liangbing looked at the Loki with reindeer antlers and asked curiously, is he an alien? Asgard people. Luo Hua at the moment watched with interest like watching a movie. He is Thor's younger brother. Although he is not a deer, he also grew up in Asgard anyway. Then what does he come to Earth for? Kayla asked curiously next to him. If it is not for the sake of him alone. Kayla almost swept past with a flame cutting. But for now it seems. This reindeer seems to be no threat. Luo Hua thinks that there are too many things to explain. I directly packaged the memories of the relationship between the Asgard people in my mind and sent them to the database. In this way, every angel can watch it. Look at it, he is a pioneer to open a large portal. After a while, Angel who was there waited for them to finish watching. Kesha noticed the key point all at once. She looked at a blue dot simulated by the Alen sand table. This is the space gem. Attention is good. Luo Hua praised. Yes, the space gem you see is a rough stone, probably only the file size of the thumb. Although this thing is called tesseract, that's because it is just a shell of the rough stone. It's like a stone shell on the outside of jade. Hear what Luo Hua said. A little bit. All the angel present stood up. They glanced at the cosmic magic. Then look at Luo Hua. Kesha respectfully said to Luo Hua, Wong, I will get the space gem for you. They all know the usefulness of space gem. This is the representative of the celestial supercomputing, the treasure house of endless energy and knowledge. With it, it is equivalent to having a treasure trove of knowledge. But, Luo Hua waved. The tone was very calm and said, don't worry, sit down first. Angel present, look at me, and I will look at you. Still, Anai stayed eagerly in his heart to follow the king's instructions and sit down. Then Luo Hua began to explain. He fell into the universe from Bifrost in Asgard. Then it happened to be discovered by the Zeteric civilization under Thanos. Only after the transaction, Loki first teleported over, and then through Tesseract, which is the space gem, teleported all the Zeteric army over. After that this planet belongs to Loki, and Tesseract belongs to Chitauri. Definitely, Chitauri got Tesseract and handed it over to Thanos. After understanding the cause and effect, they also understand what Loki is doing to get the Rubik's Cube this time. This is not. On the screen, Loki has started to use the Mind Scepter to start the war with the Agent of S.H.I.E.L.D. He can still take Asgard's green cloak material. At least it can be the only bullet for the Earth's thermal weapons. Hexi also said at this time. In other words, we wait for Loki to summon Chitauri before we get the space gem. Right, Luo Hua nodded, but he added, not only that, we can also pay a wave of Chitauri by the way. He is an affiliate of Thanos, our enemy. Then why stop using them to absorb a wave of energy? With the presence of Angel nodded. Kayla also suddenly realized. With Tesseract, our Angel will enter the conference of the universe. So it happens to show them our strength through Chitauri. Right. Liangbing agreed beside him. When the time comes, a group of trash fish will come and look for trouble. It will be troublesome to clean up at that time. After Kayla and Liangbing's analysis. This is Luo Hua's idea. After getting the space gem, the next gems will be obtained one after another. So who is still playing at the corner of the Earth? The solar system can only be regarded as one of Angel's civilized territory. Can be regarded as one of a family. So who will play at home later? Next, during their conversation, the simulated picture on the Alen sand table is also in progress. But Loki has cleaned up everyone. And he has placed the soul scepter on Hawkeye's chest. Seeing this, Luo Hua smiled and said, "Do you know what color mind gem is?" "Yellow." Angel present said it almost at the same time. They do not hesitation, because from the information Luo Hua gave them, mind gem is yellow, and have the ability to strengthen the spirit, control the spirit of others, and so on. And many more. Control the spirit of others. Hexi suddenly thought of this. At the moment she leaned forward a little. Then I saw Loki point the scepter behind Hawkeye's chest. Hawkeye actually put down the gun in his hand. Immediately became a group with Loki. Hexi frowned. The energy source of the scepter is blue. It cannot be a space gem. Space gem does not have this ability, and mind gem is not blue. To this, Luo Hua smiled and shook his head. Angel, who was present, immediately looked over. Because Luo Hua must say something important next. Watching the movie on the sand table, Luo Hua pursed his lips and smiled and said, "Isn't Tesseract also a space gem? Then why can't mind gem have a shell? No one stipulates what color or shape the outer shell of a gemstone will be." All Angel, Luo Hua's remarks, let Angel who are present know one thing directly. That is, that scepter is also one of the infinite gems. And it's mind gem. Just when the angels were about to stand up again, Luo Hua raised her hand in advance and pressed it in the air, motioning them to sit down. This is called anticipation. After being interrupted in advance by Luo Hua, Kesha looked at Luo Hua's face close at hand on the left, worried and said, "Wong, the two gems are together. We can be safe by doing this." "Yes, Wong." Kayla also worried beside him. "Even if you enter the universe at that time, there will be a younger generation to disturb you. Then it's a big deal that the sisters can run more, and they will be able to drive them all clean. So I think infinite gems is the most important. Let's get it in advance." Hear the suggestions of Kayla and Kesha. Her angel also nodded in agreement. At the moment, they all looked at Luo Hua, who was enjoying tea at the center, worrisomely. As if nothing in this world could make him panic. Take a sip of tea. Put down the cup again. Luo Hua looked at the angels who were worried about themselves. I don't do things that are unsure. In a few days, the gems will be in my hands. There is no if and in case. Tell these things plainly. Luo Hua has no worries about whether the gems will not be in his hands. The current angel civilization is completely a dimensionality reduction attack on the Kitarui army. And what angels are worried about is not an accident at all. They are instinctively worried that the king is the most important thing, so they are worried. And Luo Hua looked at them. "You didn't hear it. Ancient One said that after I get the space gem, I won't be able to see it anymore." This time, they finally remembered. Ancient One said that after Luo Hua got the gems. This shows that Luo Hua got the gem. Suddenly, they relaxed and stopped struggling with this matter. Liang Bing looked at Loki, who had already taken someone to drive away, and said, "Unexpectedly, the two gems would be directly together, which is too rare." "Yes," a kind of angel nodded. "Just those 6 gems in the universe. This is the first time that 2 gems can be so close. And up to now, no one has more than 2 gems at the same time. Including 2. Next, the simulation continues with Alen's energy projection. Loki has evacuated with Hawkeye and Tesseract. This time they will find an underground base to build the most basic. Then go to grab a metal that is very precious to the mortal, iridium. Finally, through heating and construction. In the end, the simplest and basic portal can be established. Although not big, it was enough for the Kitari army to come in. Luo Hua waved. Let Alen cancel the energy projection. Because nothing is going to happen next, as long as Loki summons an army of Zedaru in the Stark Mansion. Then Angel can get the gems back. Back and forth is the time of those few days. Luo Hua doesn't need to worry about it at all. Instead, it made him think. It's time to enter the universe and get in touch with the 3 empires and other civilizations. The Shia Empire in the Kadia Galaxy. The Nova Empire of the Andromeda Galaxy. There are also the Krees and Screws of the Large Magellanic Cloud. There is even the sovereign civilization led by the Golden Queen. These are more interesting things. However, the Kree are the ones Luo Hua can't stand the most. It's not just their accuser Ronan. What Luo Hua can't stand even more is that their civilization contains unhealthy violent factors. The genes of this factor have been followed to their ancient times. So, if in the universe, the Kree would not accept Luo Hua's regulation, then all they have ushered in is extinction. The next day. Today is a very important day for S.H.I.E.L.D. Because today Nick Fury will go to Captain America to pull in Avengers. And Phil Coulson will go to Tony Stark to let him return to the team. As for Natasha Romanoff, she will go to Hulk. Definitely, it can also be seen that Natasha Romanoff is not too willing. Time comes tonight. Natasha Romanoff brought a bunch of elite agents to a poor town in Mexico. As in the plot, use the little girl to trick Banner over. Then Natasha Romanoff walked out from a corner. Banner put down the medicine cabinet in his hand and smiled. Not long ago, a little girl came to me in the same way. But her mother is really sick, and you lied to me. Natasha Romanoff walked to the only table in the dilapidated house and sat down. I just wanted to talk to you. The little girl was just looking for it temporarily. I thought that little girl was also an agent. Banner rolled up his coat in his hands. Then he looked out through the cracked wooden board. You must still have people, let them go, heat weapons and anesthetics are useless to me. I'm the only one here this time, Dr. Banner. Natasha Romanoff looked at Banner, sincerely. Banner put the rolled coat on the table. Then he sat down on the chair. I want to say something quickly, I guess you are in trouble again. And the pistol under the table is of no use to me, it's not worthy of tickle. Obviously, Natasha Romanoff's face changed when he heard the words that there were weapons under the table. There were also dense footsteps outside at the same time. They thought the plan was seen through, so they pressed forward. Natasha Romanoff hurriedly knew through the headset, I'm fine, I'll go down. Watching the pressed black agent retreat, Banner leaked a mocking smile and said, just us. After that, he didn't care about shaking his hands. If you have something to say, hurry up. I won't believe anyone except Angel. After all, the extent to which you mortals want to have Angel is still far away. Mortal. Natasha Romanoff frowned. Dr. Banner, what's wrong? Why would he suddenly call Roar a human like that? And what Natasha Romanoff doesn't know yet is, originally, Banner would not have known that there was a gun under the table and that there was an agent outside. When she came, she was too focused and not paying attention. But now Banner found out after careful observation. Obviously, Banner is stronger than the original one. But there is no time to think about it now. Natasha Romanoff tightly tightened her gauze. Then he explained everything and what happened to Banner. After a while, Banner looked at Natasha Romanoff and confirmed. In other words, as long as I help you find the Rubik's Cube. Next, you can help me as much as possible. Natasha Romanoff nodded. Banner immediately asked, can you take the initiative to meet Angel? Natasha Romanoff shook his head immediately. Banner immediately dismissed. What's the use of that? Now I just want to spend my life as usual and meet angels as much as possible. There is nothing we can do about it. Natasha Romanoff said helplessly. Angel is not someone who wants to see it. So far, we have no right to ask to meet them unless they show up on their own initiative. Speaking of which, Natasha Romanoff remembered how Fury had said that it was a pity to meet Luo Hua the only time in New Jersey. At that time, you should ask as many questions as possible. Who knows that I haven't seen the second side until now? Because S.H.I.E.L.D. is unworthy. But, there is no way to hear S.H.I.E.L.D. Banner was obviously not interested in picking up his coat and wanted to leave. Natasha Romanoff panicked at the first glance. She didn't expect Banner to be so decisive. Don't bother me if you don't see Angel. Acute wisdom. Natasha Romanoff immediately grabbed Banner's wrist and said eagerly. This time it's very big. Angel will definitely appear when the situation gets serious. There may be a big battle at that time. You can definitely meet when you transform into Hulk. Didn't you meet last time? And Angel saved you. Banner paused in his footsteps. He thought for a while, if things are big, Angel will indeed come. And this matter Natasha Romanoff said it was very big. Then, will Angel be there at that time? Thinking of this, Banner felt that no matter what, he must go take a look. What if you can run into Angel? He turned around, flicked Natasha Romanoff's hand. After that, he picked up his coat and put it on his shoulders and walked to the door. Halfway through, he stopped and looked back and asked, "How do S.H.I.E.L.D. go?" ... Next, another day passed. When the screen turns to the aerospace carrier, all the Avengers people are in place. Basically, everything that should be there is already here. And as usual, after everyone introduced each other, Loki's traces were found again at night. Loki at the moment. It was at a banquet in Switzerland. And his purpose is precisely metal iridium. But, follow them to capture Loki. At the moment, the Angel building, which was abandoned for a long time, is also undergoing a change. Standing in the Sky City and looking down, now all angels are enjoying the scenery on the outer porch of Sky City. But it is already dark now. But look far away. Relying on Angel's strength, there are still stars in the sky shining in the distance. He looked down at the building where he once lived. Last time I said that I changed it into a wishful place, but it hasn't been changed until now. But now that I think of it, then revamp it on site. Luo Hua looked at the angels beside him. What do you think are the elements needed to change the angel building into a place of prayer? Immediately, they answered one by one. Sanctuary. Double wings. A white jade building. Auspicious clouds that can't be seen from the outside to the inside. The only way to enter is single and serious. Obviously. What they said has a deeper meaning. Luo Hua put these elements together in his mind. He thought about reforming it prayingly right away. A majestic church. It has a blue fluorescent mirror on its front. There is a golden curtain with angel wings in the middle. On both sides of the curtain are two white jade angels who look down on their faces. At the same time Angel is holding a long sword and a spear in his hands. A single and long avenue leads directly to the church. The looming clouds on both sides made the whole wishful place sacred and mysterious. The main thing, it is the statue of Luo Hua himself in the Nashan Church. And this statue is very unusual, because it is a close to one-to-one throne statue in the palace of the Sky City. That is, Luo Hua sits on the throne majestic and carelessly. The steps that mortals cannot climb make all people look like Luo Hua is scrutinizing them. But, although all the positions of this statue are very clear, but only Luo Hua's cheeks seem to be shrouded in mist. In this way, he can't see his face clearly. This is actually intentional by Luo Hua. If mortals can see King Angel's face clearly, then what is the class doing? Imagine everything. Luo Hua waved one hand. The angel building under the Sky City was suddenly covered by a layer of white clouds. Immediately afterwards, the building that rose like a cloud disappeared in an instant. But instead, a majestic church appeared in its original location. Just a few seconds, the angel building becomes a church. Then, the originally shrouded white clouds were not directly deleted. They are just a little bit diluted. Then let the whole wishful place become looming and mysterious. After all these are done, Luo Hua looked at the 5 angels around him and said, "The temple has been created, let's go down and take a look." Wings of time and space are not used. Everyone is like a bird slowly landing. Slowly fell to the avenue of the church. After taking a look, Luo Hua lifted his feet and walked in first. Then Kesha, Hexi, and Revamping followed. Finally, Alen and Kayla also followed. Walk on this long avenue. The distance along this road is enough for the believers who come forward to think about their own hearts. Then, the crowd walked to the door of the church. The 2 tall angels are standing in 2 sets. Look inside from here. You can already vaguely see Luo Hua's feet in shoes. Then everyone walked in. The moment when Kesha, Hexi, Revamping, Alen and Kyla saw Luo Hua's sculpture. It is also a neat row of salutes. Luo Hua turned around and smiled. The real body is still here, you salute the sculptures, but they are all the same. Then the 5 women looked at Luo Hua's sculpture. Obviously it is a sculpture. They now look like Luo Hua himself is sitting on it. Even here, a huge momentum from far away directly hit his face. If it is malicious, then this momentum can even suppress you to fainting. But if you carry kindness, you feel that Luo Hua is watching you kindly. This is also one of Luo Hua's skills. After watching it almost, Luo Hua turned around. Let's go back. Passing between the 5 angels and walking out, Luo Hua remembered one thing as soon as he was halfway there. He brought out the satellite phone from the dark plane. Then throw it at Alen. Alen, you will take care of this call from now on. If they ask the church, let them go. After speaking, Luo Hua, who had already turned around, took all the angels back to the Sky City. The definitely they said was shield. In order to prevent them from bothering themselves, Luo Hua threw the phone directly to Alen. He doesn't even have the mind to talk to those boring mortals now. Because the realm between the two is too far. This is not only about strength. This is still in mind and soul. Do you think humans and real creatures would sit down and talk with dust? No need to think about it. At least Fury doesn't have that qualification. One counts as one. Among human beings on the entire planet. Can be qualified to meet and talk to Luo Hua. But one hand. ... Next. Inside Fury's aerospace carrier. At the moment Loki has been locked in a green can. And Thor, Iron Man, Captain America, Banner and others have all arrived. It can be said that the current personnel are the most complete in a generation. At the moment in Banner's private laboratory, Banner is positioning Tesseract. And Tony was messing around with Jill. It's okay. He poked Banner with a pen. It's okay. He clicked on the sensitive part of Banner with his hand. Looking at Banner, there was no response. Tony finally couldn't help asking, why are you different from what they said? Didn't they say that you are a big green guy who can easily rage? Seriously, I'm still a fan of you. After all, your velvet body is so strong, but you can only wear battle armor. Banner controlled the screen with his hands. Without looking back, he said, what they know is who I was a few years ago. If I can rage casually, then I won't be on this boat either. And I will stay away, instead of coming to Angel's neighborhood and waiting to be judged. Tony nodded attentively. Then he looked at Banner and asked, listen to them saying that you believe in Angel. To be honest, I was lucky enough to be rescued by Angel a long time ago. The whole world knows this. I think they are very envious. And you, this time, Banner, who was busy, gave Tony a glance. Now Tony's appearance is completely showing off. So Banner said boredly, Angel has saved a lot of people, and you are not the one behind. If you think Angel meets you while saving you, you feel different. Then I think you think too much. Angel saves people, but don't look at this. And I don't think Angel will save you at all. This time. Tony's body shook. He remembered the side where Alen let himself go. What if I am Iron Man? Angel did not want to look at himself. If the soul and inner quality are not up to standard, it is not up to standard. Banner laughed at as Tony was now. He immediately gloated and said, it seems I was right. I think in the current Earth, no one knows Angel better than me. Tony, who was found thinking, smoothed his chin with his hand. He stepped aside and almost started to shut himself up. At this time, a man in a blue star-striped tights walked in. He looked at Banner and Tony and asked, you seem to be talking about Angel. Let's talk about it. I really want to hear it too. After waking up from the sleeping world, Steve found out that the whole world was yelling Angel, Angel. So after learning about it, Steve also thinks Angel is very good. But this also caused Captain America to want to meet Angel and the like. After all, he still feels a bit similar to Angel. But Banner took another look at Steve and said, Captain America, because I became a monster, I can even smell the most basic qualities of a creature. Because the current Banner did not inject that Mr. Land's medicine. So the current Banner is logically stronger than the previous one. Because the bottle of medicine is more to weaken the power for integration. And now Hulk. He is more like awakening, ability of wild smell. This kind of ability can even classify all biological specifications. What is good and what is not good. What quality is he, what kind of person he is. Banner can even sniff out a bit. So when facing Angel, the 3-meter-high Hulk is like a big green doll, just like a pet dog. Because Hulk, diaresis, sniffs Angel, he feels that Angel is a perfect creature. Just follow Angel and obey. Then there is nothing better than this. It's like a biological instinct. But for ordinary people, Banner felt that everyone was flawed. Everyone has big file size and small flaws and some fatal flaws. So Banner looked at them all disgusting. Because no one can compare with Angel. Hear what Banner said. Steve asked with great interest. Then what kind of person do you think I am? Banner took a sniff in the air. Then spit out 3 words. False, big, empty. Captain America frowned. He didn't understand the meaning of these words. So I asked, what does this mean? Banner smiled. Continue to control the device by hand. The people who really meet you at the critical moment know what this sentence means. You will never understand yourself, because. At this point, Banner didn't continue. Because Captain America is the most selfish and self-centered person. His freedom is all his freedom. Although his contribution is undeniable, his selfishness cannot be avoided. It can be said like this. When there is no referee, Captain America is the referee. But when there are referees, Captain America is not right on its side. And who is the referee who can judge him wrong now? But others can also be Angel. Strictly speaking, they are all those who are indirectly unlucky or unhelpful after receiving his help. At the moment, Natasha Romanoff talked in front of Loki. Fury and Phil Coulson chase Thor and ask all about Angel. And Captain America, Banner, Tony are also doing research. But Tony is still dishonest this time. He still deciphered the aerospace carrier's data system. Then I turned directly to the project of energy weapons and energy missiles. He looked at these items. Turning his head to Captain America, who was also watching, said, I think we have to go to Fury and ask clearly what we want to do to develop this kind of missile that can wipe out the entire state. Captain America just nodded. Tony looked at Banner at the same time. Then just when Banner said he would not go, rumble. A large hole with a diameter of 3 meters was directly broken through the shell of the aerospace aircraft carrier. I hope everyone will support it and subscribe more.